let's get started. I feel like the show is coming on. Hello. Hi, everybody. Welcome. How are you? Gosh, it's already Thursday, and I can't personally believe we have 40 more days of this. But we do, and we're going to get through it because we have to. Now, a lot of news is obviously broken since the last time we spoke, not the least of which, of course, Rudy Giuliani is in the hospital with COVID-19. Not simply ill with it, not simply, he's tested positive and he's monitoring at home. He's in the hospital, which means more than likely he was symptomatic for a couple of days, blew it off, and then ended up like on Sunday, I think officially he went downhill enough to have to go to the hospital. He's an older man. He's got obvious comorbidities. This is not a good thing. And like everybody else who's gotten this, I want to say I hope he has a speedy recovery, and I hope in his experience with it, he learns to recognize the vulnerability of his fellow Americans and people throughout the world, that he is basically creating an environment where those people are in more danger, and his absolute shirking of responsibility in this current pandemic is obviously capsizing any good he might have thought he did around 9/11 or as the mayor of New York, and is resulting in a 9/11 every day. This guy who I I posted the tweet earlier, but apparently Giuliani said that a good deal of the people who get COVID-19 got it from having sex with barnyard animals. And I didn't know until he said that Putin had gotten it, and that's what he was probably referencing, because as we all know, Vladimir Putin has sex with barnyard animals. This is just, and it's how he has gotten whatever illness. He has to be sequestered away in his own little environment. That's a totally different thing, not COVID related. They've just, for the good and safety of the Russian people, they've got him in some sort of bubble, it would seem. I'm of course kidding. All the diseases that Vladimir Putin has, I think, spontaneously regenerated by the evil in his cells. Has nothing to do with the fact that he has sex with barnyard animals. Anyways, this is true, though, that Rudy Giuliani actually said that. And Rudy Giuliani is now in the hospital with COVID. This is also true. Well, is anything true anymore, honestly? Because, interestingly enough, the news around this, I saw it first when Maggie Haberman retweeted Trump and said, Trump says Judy Giuliani had tested positive for COVID. And I think you would be forgiven if after his Four Seasons Total landscaping gathering and his sweating motor oil and his multiple flatulent outbursts in front of the Georgia legislature, you would be forgiven for thinking that he was yanked from the team, but because he's, because Trump likes him, instead of firing him outright for being a failure like he did with Sidney Powell, he gives him an out pretending that he has COVID. I don't necessarily know if that's the case. I'm not venturing into that. But you could be forgiven for having that thought, I think. I think I'm in that zone where I'm like, citation needed. Somewhere in time is asking why did he get to go to Walter Reed? I don't know. Did he end up going to Walter Reed? That I didn't know. I thought he was going to Georgetown Medical Hospital. Is there another kind of hospital? I thought I saw that they sent him to a place in Georgetown that's nearby to where he's been living in a hotel doing his Common Sense show while he's been leading the team, I guess, whatever, the elite strike force as they embarrass themselves across the country. Now, since we last spoke, also, 2 more Trump-related lawsuits have been chucked out. These are ones that were filed by Sidney Powell. And I know what you're thinking. How in the world could a judge listen to Sidney Powell and not just be completely sympathetic to anything she presents? But alas, nay. It turns out that her written endeavors in the legal arena are just as shoddy as her personal appearances on rando Newsmax shows. And basically, it seems to be that a lot of the stuff she files seems to be just dictated either to a legal aid that she has that's working pro bono, or a staffer that she's paid. Or somebody, Mike Lindell, Mike Pillow, lent her over the course, I guess, because they, besides all the misspellings, they have a real kind of jaunty conversational flavor you don't usually find in actual legal documents, which is largely why they keep getting thrown out. Hello, Queensland, Australia. I love you. I'm glad you're here. And I couldn't be happier to go down there at some point and go, I want to get down there and hang out, do some stand-up, maybe shoot something. I haven't decided, but I'll go down there as soon as I can. Blessings to you in Aussie land, and I'm very proud of you guys for all that you've done, taking care of yourselves and knocking back COVID and claiming your country back by following the science largely. There you go. So, yeah, it can't stop lying. It was hot today. It's such a weird thing. Anyways, so yes, we have spoken the fact that Rudy now has COVID, and now filming, what we call it up here, shooting. Alberta, yes, I have. Canada, I guess we're assuming. Indeed, I have. I've done some travels throughout all of Canada. I haven't worked everywhere there, but I've been Victory, Melbourne. Love the accent. Absolutely, we like Melbourne. It's a good place. I've got friends from Perth. I've got a couple of friends who go down to Perth with some regularity, and I got to be completely frank that I'm completely jealous. I want to go, and especially to Perth. Perth, just so I could say Perth. Are you a U.S. citizen? Are you a U.S. citizens? No, I am not. I am a U.S. citizen. I am one man. I know. It seems like I'm so many people. I'm an actor, I'm a director, I'm a comedian, I'm a writer, I'm a bon vivant, trained close-up magician, and I can sing like a songbird. But, and I'm smarter than anyone needs to be in a pinch, but I'm only one man. Someday I hope to be two. So let's start going through our stuff for today, because there's a lot of it. I'm just saying, better than the Olsen twins. I wouldn't say that. Helen, I'd love to come stay with you in Perth. We'll work it out at some point. I'm just very excited about the prospect. And thank you guys for joining me, and thank you for all your support. And I want to thank all of our patrons, especially the ones that have been with us the longest. We are happy to announce that a special gift is going out to our longest-serving patrons that have been around. This is something that Rob Glenn made for us because he's a genius. This is a stainless steel. I think it's it might be an aluminum composite, but it's a piece of metal. It's our famous symbol made into a necklace, a pendant that you can wear, and it will come with a little thing, and it's going to the people who've been with us the longest, and it's pretty darn cool. And these are one of a kind, and yes, they have powers. But yeah, this is pretty awesome, and thank you, Rob Glenn, again for doing this for us. That is incredible, and I was excited to get my prototype of it and wear it all the time. The thing is, I need to figure out how best to get it on a necklace for you guys, because I want the point to show. So I think it's got to have like a leather weave or a twine weave around it, depending on what you like, that can make it hang like that. How does your Freemasons frat allow women members? No, it does not. You cannot be a female Freemason. Because there's essentially no need. Um, it is not that women are excluded from Freemasonry. It is that Freemasonry is something that only men need. It is a cultivating community for men to be better men. There is the Order of the Eastern Star, which goes into the mysticism and some of the more esoteric aspects of Masonry. And women have traditionally, especially through pagan cultures and the like, have explored those kind of things without the need for male intervention. And this is yes, there is a women's version. That's what we're calling the Order of the Eastern Star. But the essence of Freemasonry is that men need a certain amount of cultivation that nature provides naturally to women through the introduction of their menstrual cycle, the birthing process that they go through, the life cycle of their fertility, the decisions they are forced to make that men are not, because men can make babies from the minute they're sexually mature till the day they die, and therefore their behavior is not predicated on an ability to do that, and therefore cultivating men into better men is a specific and necessary societal effort. That's why. Just so you know. There you go. And I, by the way, I am enjoying, quite frankly, the obviously Eastern European troll farm members that we have that seem to think that you look like a girl because you have long hair stuff upsets people in the States or anywhere else in the Western world. I'm not quite, like, I've seen a few of those lately since my hair's, they've noticed that my hair has gotten longer. But what? Like, who cares? Like, you look like a girl, your hair's long. Girls only have long hair. Seriously, how stunted is the sexual development of your country where that's the primary gotcha? I know, rock stars, anybody? It's so funny. So yeah, I'm fantastically amused by that. I mean, honest to God, like, I get some of the ones that they rubber stamp anytime they see an actor, singer, musician, comedian, whatever, get political. They have their rubber stamp like, who are you? Didn't you used to be somebody? And what's the other one? I don't even know who you are. And you used to be, and one hit wonder, whatever. You see that about musicians a lot. And I mean, I get those, and they just kind of don't rubber stamp them out. But I have to say, I am completely baffled. Yeah, Jesus had long hair. I mean, honestly, do they go into a church and go, "Who's a gay guy on the big piece of wood?" It's what? It's very strange. I think I adore it. I think it's one of the weirdest ones, along with and I think my other favorite troll is, while we're on this subject, is the who are you, or who the hell are you, or how dare you say these things, or my favorite is who is Hal Sparks, or who cares who Hal Sparks is. When they've come to my site, which, because I'm a branding genius, has my name all over it, and they came here. It's literally like barging into someone's house and going, who's the homeowner I keep hearing about? It's like, if I came to their site and started writing in their comment section stuff, I would get that. That would be a decent comeback, I suppose. But when you come into my house, it's just really goofy. But I mean, please do it. It pumps up it makes the chat really full, and I appreciate that. It's like a volumizing spray. It's not actual hair. It just kind of gives you the froof. See, I'm learning all this stuff now that my hair's back. Yeah, this is it's like barging into McDonald's and going, "Who the hell is this clown?" That's exactly right. Who's this McDonald's person? Why is he trying to shove food down my throat? Like, asshole, you're in a restaurant named after him. It's a all right, never mind. I wish they would try harder. We all know this, right? We all wish they would try some At least a little, you know? Get a little personal. Do the work. You're getting paid. You should at least don't just phone it in. Where's all this bootstrapping stuff? I mean, thank you so much, Sonia. And we had wait, that one just came up and I just saw it. Thank you, Lawanda. I just, who's a giant rat holding the pizza. Thanks, folks. Thank you, Kelly. I just find that bizarre, but it's fun, and we'll keep me posted on if there's any new ones I should be aware of in the, in the swing, in the trying to hit a fart with a tennis racket flailing that most of the trolls do these days. I mean, I guess I'm the only person who pines for when trolling actually had an effect. Remember when you used to get upset? Remember when it used to be upsetting? It's like it's just, it's like this is what an addict feels like when they need a higher dose. It just doesn't oomph me anymore. Just well, let's keep trying. So Trump obviously is in the pardon and medals phase of his presidency. So he's gathering all these people around. This guy, by the way, who he's giving it to, college coach, I believe, and he believes that Trump won the election. He's been outspoken about that fact, hence the medal. If he'd done everything else he'd done in his life and hadn't done that, no medal. Let's just be abundantly clear. But I haven't watched this whole piece of this. Guys, I don't like to pre-watch this nonsense. But I'm going to guess he makes it about himself at some point.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. I mean, that was just a guess, but I appreciate it.
And today it's my privilege to present our nation's highest...
Oh, is that quiet? Hold on. Our nation's highest what?
Civilian honor, the Presidential Medal of Freedom, to one of the greatest wrestlers in American history.
He looks like he's about to take Trump. Give the guy some credit. He's spry in his old age, and he literally is just like looking for Trump's weaknesses. His hand's kind of twitching down by his hip. I don't know if you can see that. Hold on, my mic is kind of in the way. There you go. See his hand right down there? Yeah. There's a little bit of he's looking at Trump's weight distribution, chucking it to his left hip. He's going, that right knee's got to be weak. That's why he's favoring it. And he's basically about to try and dive roll Trump. It's just how he is. Muscle memory at this point.
Iowa legend Dan Gable. He has been an incredible...
And he's from Iowa, and Iowa went for me, so I'll give awards to people from Iowa.
Inspiration to so many people.
And by the way, I have no problem with this dude, and even if he is a Trumpster, he's an old dude, and he's got a big family, and I wish them well, and I hope they're safe from COVID, although they're at a hotspot super spreader event right now, and they brought the old people and the children, and it's a mistake, and awful, but, I wish them well.
We're joined today by Dan's wonderful wife.
And to everybody who studied under him or was trained by him or has loved him, I salute you, knock yourself out. This is always about the president. I have not...
wife, Kathy, and their incredible and large family, including 13 grandchildren. Thank you very much. Thank you, Kathy, very much. It's a great honor for us, too. Thank you for being here. We're also joined by Iowa Senators Chuck Grassley. Where's Chuck?
I'm over here on a special kind of a machine, Mr. President, that keeps me from being downwind from your bullshit.
Chuck,
I'm Chuck.
Congratulations on everything, Chuck. And Joni Ernst, who just had a big victory. Thank you, Joni. What a job. What a job. They had you down a couple of points, and you won by a lot. So, it's one of those things that...
makes you think that the ES&S machines are phony?
You should be very proud of yourself. You campaigned hard, and that was a tremendous victory. Thank you very much. And also, Representatives Jim Jordan. Where's Jim? A great wrestler.
Yeah. But by the way, if anybody's thinking about messing with any of those kids, tell Jim first so he can turn his back and pretend he didn't know.
A really great wrestler. I won't go over the record because the only...
Yeah, don't go over his record. It's a bad idea.
Well, you're not great as compared to this guy, perhaps.
Well, that guy never allowed sexual assaults to go on And for that alone, compared to Jim Jordan, he deserves a medal.
But he's a warrior in every way, and we appreciate you being here. And more,
Unless you need to fight for people who are being sexually assaulted, then Jim Jordan, not so much a warrior as an enabler, a pedophile's wingman.
Mark Wayne, Mullen, thank you very much for being here, and I'm glad your son is doing well and setting records also. So these two guys are great. They're really, really fantastic people.
I'm convinced. You guys convinced?
Dan was born and raised in the working class town of Waterloo, Iowa. His mother said she knew Dan would be a wrestler the day they brought him home from the hospital. Even as an infant, Dan refused to let his back even touch the ground. That's sort of an interesting statement.
Is it? It's the first time I'm reading any of this. Dan, it's almost like I didn't give a shit about you until I heard that you supported me in the election and stuff. But that's a funny thing, a little joke that I don't actually get because I don't do any physical activities whatsoever except cheat at golf. But your back doesn't touch the ground. Most of the time, people try not to drop their baby. But in your case...
Probably so.
Probably. I mean, maybe his mom's a liar. Probably so.
At 4 years old, his parents sent him to the local YMCA where he learned to swim, wrestle, and play football. When he reached high school, Dan decided to commit himself entirely to wrestling. His coach quickly saw his unmatched intensity and gave Dan the keys to the gym so he could come first thing in the morning to practice.
To wrestle himself.
At first, Dan was alone.
I would get there before wrestling practice just to practice wrestling when no one else was there. I'm sorry, it's fine.
But
it's not, I don't have a problem with this guy's history, just Trump's weird misunderstanding of his history.
As he achieved one victory after another.
Against himself before practice started?
The rest of the team followed his lead. He worked hard, but he was also born with something very special.
Oh, I see. It's genetics. I mean, it was one thing to train really hard, but unless you are one of the genetic Übermensch.
Well, talent.
It's natural talent. By the way, talent is falling in love with something before everybody else does. It has nothing to do with your genes.
And talent, you either have it or you don't.
No, you don't. You can develop talent, and most people do. They fall in love with something, playing piano or whatever it is, before other people their age do, so they get a jump start. I mean, even in talking about it, the dude was trained in wrestling since he was 4 years old. I'm guessing he wasn't meeting people on the mat that had, maybe they'd been training in wrestling for 2 years.
During his time.
But that's talent, isn't it?
In high
Talent is your parents drop you off at the Y to be beaten up.
School, Dan's beloved sister, Diane, toughest time in his life, was murdered. Afterwards, Dan poured even more of his energy into wrestling, and his exceptional success brought happiness and pride to his family.
Happiness?
Especially in overcoming this incredible heartbreak that they had with what happened to Diane.
That she was murdered? That's terrible, and I feel for this family, but what are you...
As a high school wrestler, Dan went 64-0, not losing a single match. And I have to say, Jim Jordan told me I knew all about Dan, but he told me things that are pretty amazing, right, Jim? Pretty amazing.
I knew all about him, but he told me things I didn't know. So you didn't know all about him. Okay.
Dan then attended Iowa State, where he secured two...
Gonzo, you wrestled at the YMCA as a kid. At the YMCA fun clubs, what they had during the summer was my actual sort of child care for my mom. She would just drop me off there. That's where I swam and did all kinds of exercises and whatever. It was where I kept healthy essentially during the summers. And I'd spend half the day there and then the rest of the day watching movies or at the arcade until my mom was done with her shift at the hospital. 2
NCAA wrestling championships, national wrestling championships, 3 Big 8 titles, and became a 3-time All-American.
Wait, he won national NCAA? What does NCAA stand for? Oh.
And he won 117 consecutive matches and lost only 1. Well, in politics, I won 2, so I'm 2-0.
No, you won 1. But you lost the popular vote both times, you didn't win 2. You barely won 1. You lost the popular vote by 3.5 million last time. And you lost this one horribly. But try and make this about yourself. Take this man's day, take this man's award, and make it that you're basically as good as him.
Politics. I became a 3-time All-American. He won 117 consecutive matches and lost only 1. Well, you know, in politics.
And lost only 1. In politics, basically, I'm better than this guy and all of his accomplishments because he fought 167 to 1, and I got, you know, in my head 2 out of 2. Like, what? Honestly, like, how gross is this?
I won 2, so I'm 2-0, and that's pretty good too. But we'll see how that turns out.
We already did. You lost.
After that lone defeat, Dan vowed that it wasn't going to happen again. He couldn't stand the feeling of losing a match.
Yeah, he hates being around losers. I mean, it's one of the worst things if you have to be anywhere near somebody who's got like a record of 1-1. Ugh. Dude's 50% loser, and he's right next to you in a blue tie. I don't even know how this guy does it. I think he's a winner just for sharing a room with you.
He rededicated himself to mastering the sport and soon adapted his wrestling style to reach new heights of greatness. Sports Illustrated labeled Dan the hardest working athlete in the world by far and detailed his rigorous routine of working out 2 to 3 times a day every single day of the week. They estimated that Dan produced 60 pounds of sweat every 7 days. That's a lot. I'm not sure I want to hear about it, but that's a lot.
Why are you being grossed out by the... What? I'm not sure I want to hear about it?
Sweat every 7 days. That's a lot. I'm not sure I want to hear about it, but that's a lot. That's a lot of work. In his pursuit of perfection, Dan...
Coming from a man who only sweats when he's caught off guard.
Suffered multiple injuries. His nose, multiple fingers were broken, and his feet, very tough stuff.
His feet are very tough stuff. Kurt, thank you so much. Oh my God. I'm glad to keep you relatively sane during these insane times. It's the only reason I'm here. This dude, his feet were tough stuff. Read the paper and shut up.
Pushed every single muscle to the absolute limit.
Everyone? Every single? Every. You are aware of the elaborate chain of sphincters in your abdominal region that shouldn't normally come up in wrestling. But every single, all right, sure.
Nobody's ever done it like him, but his unwavering grit and focus have propelled him forward.
To maybe one day learn how to read without using his finger?
Through all of that adversity, tremendous adversity. Before matches, Dan would repeat the words cakes, carries, ducks, picks, shucks, sweeps, over and over again. I'll have to ask Dan why. Tremendous adversity. Before matches, Dan would repeat the words cakes, carries, ducks, picks, shucks, sweeps, over and over again. I'll have to ask Dan why.
Because those are the names of wrestling moves, and that's his recipe for success. If he can get this to get to that, to get to this, then he sweeps, then he... That's part... All right.
Why, Dan?
Because they're all moves that end the match.
Oh.
And you get your hand raised.
Oh, wow.
So that was going
That's
through
pretty
my
good.
head.
That's pretty good. It almost would have been cool if I actually gave a shit about what you do beforehand and even reviewed this, since it's a presidential medal of freedom. Even if I just glanced at it, since you're willing to have Iowa throw the election for me.
wasn't worried about his moves. I was only worried about my moves.
Wow. Well, you did whatever it was, you did the right thing.
Yeah, whatever it was. I mean, you did lose one, though, and I've never lost any except the one I did. So, I mean, you're kind of a loser. Shucks.
He had only two things in mind, scoring and dominating.
Basically, a high school boy.
In the midst of the Cold War, he was selected to represent Team USA at the 1972 Munich Olympics. The leader of the Soviet wrestling team proclaimed that he would search the USSR and find a wrestler that would defeat Dan Gable. That was his big ambition. And they found somebody that was considered one of the greatest anywhere in the world.
Well, yeah, that's true of all Olympic athletes. You know what I mean? Like, isn't that the point of being an Olympic athlete, is that you're one of the greatest in the entire world? All right.
But they failed.
Well, yeah, because he won.
Dan won every match and did not give up a single point. How many matches in the Olympics, Dan?
6.
So you won every match and you didn't give up a point.
Yeah, that's what the paper said. You just read that. Read that again. Listen to this jerk off.
But they failed. Dan won every match and did not give up a single point. How many matches in the Olympics, Dan?
6.
So you won every match and you didn't give up a point. And that's a record. It's a record, I think, that still stands. To do that, did the Russian in the final did not get a point?
No, because if you look back what it said on the fucking paper, 6 matches, didn't give up a point. So the Russian, obviously, who gives... No, but nobody did. That's what makes the guy great at what he does, you dickhead. Let me get this straight. I know it says here, but these people lie to me all the time.
Russian did not get a point.
No, no one did. He didn't give up a point in all 6 matches. That's what the paper says. Where is... Not, wait a minute. 1?
The Russian in the final did not get a point.
Russian did not get a point.
And what did you win that one by?
Only won at 3-0, but
That's okay.
3-0. What you actually need to win is 3 points. Oh, God.
That's pretty good. What do you think?
Do I have mods for the chat? Not on, unfortunately, hold on one second. Let's see. Hold on one second. Take this guy. There you go. There you go. I don't, and I don't know how to make them in Facebook. Somebody messaged me about that. Yeah, I saw him. I dumped him.
Jim, have you ever heard of when you go 6 matches and don't give up a point against great
Yeah, I mean, against shitty people, sure, but...
talent? You watched it, right? Nah, it's amazing. It's really...
Nah, it's amazing. You ever heard of such a thing where somebody wins 6 matches and didn't give up? I mean, against good people. I'm sure it's happened with other. Anyways, it's so this. Wait a minute. Did the Russian? You're sure? Because on my next phone call, I don't know Gonzo why he if he's a. While has what he has to do with Pearl Harbor vets. Yeah.
Really, to me, that's amazing. Not giving up a single point. He toppled Soviet preeminence in the sport. At that time, they had the greatest wrestlers in the world, they thought, except for Dan. And they sort of felt they couldn't beat him. Defeated their wrestler in that final match and took home the
Wait, how many points did the Russian get, though? I'm still confused.
Olympic gold medal.
Oh, he won the gold medal when he won 6 matches without giving up a point. That's weird.
As a wrestler, Dan set a pin streak record of 25 consecutive pins. Now, I'm larger than you a little bit. Do you think I could take you in wrestling?
No. You couldn't take him in a jog across a room. And bigger, when you mean... all right.
Would I have a big advantage?
you would have no chance.
What do you think? I agree. Do you agree with that, John? I do. I agree.
Well, yeah. Yeah, you... This dude, I like this dude, actually. But I swear to God, this dude would fuck him up. You think I could I'm bigger than you. You think I could take your short stuff? Good God. Even this dude, who clearly is a Trump supporter, that's what makes this man a champion. That as much as he might be a Trump fart sniffer, because that's just Iowa's way these days, he's still not like, nah, dude, nah, don't even. I love you, Mr. President, but I mean, honestly, I wouldn't, those 60 gallons of sweat I did, no, I wouldn't even break a sweat. You would shit your pants and cry like a bitch and pass out and wake up, and I'd still be choking you. Look at this guy. Watch that again.
Record of 25 consecutive pins.
It's like talking to his family, like, how long is this fucking guy? Just give me the medal so I can get out of here.
Now, I'm larger than you a little bit.
Fatter.
Do you think I could take you in wrestling, huh? Would I have a big advantage?
You would have no chance.
What do you think? I agree. Do you agree with that, John? I do. I agree.
What, are you checking the room? He's probably gonna fire the dude who went, he'd kick your ass, Mr. President. I got big ups to Dan. Hi. Okay. Hot would be lovely. Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Thank you, my love. I have to give this guy points. Seriously. I want this guy to get the Presidential Medal of Freedom just for calling out the president as a braggadocious asshole to his face.
He's the expert. That is held to this day, 25 consecutive pins. He was also the first American to win consecutive world and Olympic titles. Dan went on to coach at the University of Iowa, where he secured 355 victories and 15 NCAA team titles. And Jim Jordan told me that he was the greatest wrestler ever, but he may have been a better coach. Right, Jim?
Yeah, stop asking Jim Jordan about wrestling coaches. You're not helping. Jim Jordan looked the other way while young men were sexually assaulted repeatedly during Jim Jordan's time as a wrestling coach.
Now, has any team in any sport ever won 15 NCAA team titles? Because I don't know. I mean, I think that's a lot.
Probably.
That's more than UCLA in basketball, right?
Yes.
So I don't know if it has any. Jim? I don't think so. I think it's incredible.
Well, check first.
His team scored an average of 17 victories for every loss, and he was named the University of Idaho's all-time.
The University of Idaho. I've never been to Idaho.
Winningest coach, and I think probably you look all over the country, it would be the all-time winningest coach. So that.
Yes, they hold the record in the NCAA. What the fuck are you talking about? If you look even all over the country, in terms of national records, they hold the national record. Therefore, Jesus Christ, do you even care?
That's incredible. 15 NCAA titles. As a coach, Dan has trained, guided, and mentored 152 All-American athletes.
Which is almost as many as Jim Jordan allowed to be sexually assaulted. Almost.
106 Big Ten champions, 45 national champions, and
a partridge in a
12 Olympians. He was also the head coach of 3 U.S. Olympic teams. Dan has said, quote, "I never jumped for joy as a player, but I always jump for joy as a coach." In other words, he did his job, but he was really rooting for those other people to do theirs. That's great, Dan. It's a great statement.
Is that what, in other words? What a great...
Dan has been inducted into the USA Wrestling Hall of Fame, the United States Olympic Hall of Fame, the National Wrestling Hall of Fame, and the United World Wrestling Hall of Fame. In 2013, he helped ensure that wrestling remained a very important top Olympic sport. The National Wrestling Hall of Fame has built a Dan Gable Museum in Dan's hometown, a permanent reminder of the incredible journey that started in the great state of Iowa. I love Iowa.
Because I won Iowa.
I love Iowa.
Because I won Iowa.
And I knew those polls were wrong. They
Jesus Christ, dude.
had me losing Iowa, Dan, and we won Iowa by a lot. There were a lot of polls that were wrong. I love that state. No
Christ.
one has done more to promote wrestling in America than Dan Gable. He's an athletic giant who conquered one of the most difficult and ancient sports in the world. He's the greatest wrestler probably ever. We've never had anybody like him. He's made our country very proud.
Ever. Right after the sentence about wrestling's been around since before writing. Right.
And he is a true GOAT. You know what GOAT is?
No, what's GOAT? Tell us what GOAT is, hipster. I hate when millennials riff. What does GOAT mean?
GOAT, greatest of all time, right? He's the greatest of.
Right. Oh, that's what. I'm sorry. In Iowa, it means something totally different. That's the phrase I use. Is greatest of all. That's what GOAT is. That's GOAT.
All time. Today, in recognition of
That is literally the first time he read that.
his really exceptional achievements, Dan will become the first wrestler in history to receive this, our most important award, along with the Congressional Medal of Honor. I would now like to ask the military aide to step forward to present Coach Dan Gable with the Presidential Medal of Freedom. But before doing that, I'd like to have Dan say a few words, please. Thank you. Dan, please.
Okay, I'm skipping past his statements because good for him. I have no, I honest to God, even if he's a Trump supporter, I have no problem with Dan Gable's. He's welcome to believe or feel whatever he wants. This is about, I didn't vote for him and I did not vote for him. This is about Trump. And look at this ridiculousness, by the way. Read the statement yourself and then stand there. Watch this weird. Photo op.
Danny Mac Gable is one of the greatest collegiate
Look at Trump desperately trying to make camera face.
athletes and coaches of the 20th century. As a wrestler, he was a 3-time All-American, winning 2 NCAA national championships,
This is his
And a
don't
golden-
poop, don't poop face.
medal at the 1972 Olympic Games. He followed his career on the mat with an even more celebrated coaching career at the University of Iowa, leading the Hawkeyes to 21 Big Ten championships and 15 national championships. The United States is proud to honor Danny Mac Gable for his remarkable contributions to the sports world and to our great American story.
Here, you kids, hold on to that. I just touched it. I already had COVID. Okay, grab this piece and then this piece. And then don't freak out. Just pretend I'm Jim Jordan. And again, good for him. Totally fine. And then. By the way, that's the whole. This is him saying that we're not done yet means Trump hasn't lost.
For Dan, please, John, for Dan.
For Dan, that collegiate wrestling.
Inspiration on the mat.
Okay.
The one time I didn't focus on what I needed to do, I lost. So you have to ask all them. I don't know, where am I?
Well, we're very proud of you, Dan, and thank you very much. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you very much, everybody. I would like to end with a really weird hand gesture that's based on, physical ways of speaking that no one actually does. I learned this in a don't column in a Toastmasters book.
Mr. President? So,
Rudy's doing well. I just spoke to him. He's doing very well. No temperature, and he actually called me early this morning. He was the first call I got. Now he's doing very well. Another champion. Greatest mayor in the history of New York, and
No.
what he's doing now is more important. And he will admit that. He was the greatest mayor did a fantastic job.
Yeah, he was great. He helped the Russian mob take over and broom out the Italian mob. And they chose somebody who was Italian to help them do it. And it was a really smart move on their part. So,
Especially when you see what's going on nowadays, Dan.
what is going on nowadays?
Rudy Giuliani was a great mayor, and what he's doing now, and he will say it is even more important.
You mean farting in Georgia and sweating motor oil and standing between a porn shop and a crematorium? Yeah, as I would think, being mayor of the city that has Broadway and the Dow in it, yeah, I would think nearly shitting on Jenna Ellis in front of a bunch of strangers in Georgia, next to a drunk Karen asking to see the manager of the state senators. Yeah, that's way better.
A week from now, Mr. President,
All the shit he did to kind of bring America together around 9/11 pales in comparison to blowing his nose, opening up his handkerchief, snot side out, wiping his mouth and his whole face with it.
electors will need to cast their vote. There's not a lot of time between now and then to make your case to overturn the vote. At this point, are you looking to change the outcome of the election or try to make a case to the American people that it wasn't fair?
Well, I think the case has already been made if you look at the polls.
If you look at the polls.
It was a rigged election. You look at the different states, the election was totally rigged. It's a disgrace to our country.
You mean like Kentucky and Florida and Ohio and Texas? Because I'm going to go with yeah.
It's like a third world country. These ballots pouring in from everywhere, using machinery that nobody knows ownership, nobody knows anything about.
Your own witness in Georgia, the lady said she was talking to the vice president and co-owner the entire time. He was in the room. She got to speak to him.
They have glitches, as they call them, glitches.
Yeah, the 6,000 vote glitch, that 6,000 of your votes went to Biden and then were fixed immediately. Interestingly enough, the glitch in Pennsylvania was 17,000 of Biden votes were given to you, and then someone went, oh, that's not proper. Those actually are Biden votes, and gave them back, but whatever.
The glitches weren't glitches. They got caught sending out thousands of votes.
Oh, so somebody in Pennsylvania got caught stealing 17,000 votes from Biden? Why is that person not under arrest?
All against me, by the way.
No, not in Pennsylvania. As a matter of fact, by a factor of 3.
You know, this was like from a third world nation, and I think the case has been made.
And that's the whole, black cities. That's what he's talking about. Let's be abundantly clear. Let's
And now we find out what we can do about it, but you'll see a lot of
nothing.
big things happening over the next couple of days. And very importantly, we're here for a different reason. We're here to present our highest award, our highest
Civilian award.
achievement, really, something that
It's not the highest achievement. It's the highest civilian award.
really speaks to such incredible achievement to a man who really is a great man and a great figure in sports, not just wrestling, in sports. One of our greatest athletes of all time, and I just want to say it's an honor to be with you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it.
Thanks, everybody. Good
Thank you,
God. Okay, so before Rudy got sick, Rudy had time to tape one of these lovelies.
Hello, this is Rudy Giuliani. I'm bringing to you Rudy's Common Sense.
And by the way, at this point, because he is symptomatic and he's in the hospital, he had COVID. He had just gotten it, or had gotten it a couple days before and was just starting to get sick with it.
And maybe one of our more...
And it shows. There's a little more makeup than usual. He's blotchy here and here, which is really weird. He's got the orange makeup around here. He always wipes his mouth with his rag and takes it off so his lips get really pink and white or whatever. But they brush the stuff back into the gray of his hair. That's what the orange is. So it looks like he's just done like a Cheeto thrust.
more exciting and maybe important
Maybe.
podcast.
Uh-oh, this one's going to be exciting and important.
We've just returned from a 4 or 5 day trip, can't remember quite,
Yeah, it's going to be really hard for those track and tracers, right?
but we were before legislatures in Arizona
Uh-huh, and yeah, how many of them did you kill?
and in Michigan,
Yeah. And how many of their family members did you endanger?
and in Georgia.
Right, where you farted on people and unleashed a drunk woman and a racist Indian woman on everyone. Honestly, part of your case was all Chinese people look alike. Seriously. That was, and by the way, when I say case in quotes because at none of these sessions is anyone under oath. No one. You'll hear loud, like later on when I play, you'll hear a couple other people in another clip that I have make the argument that these people are saying this under oath. They're not. No one's under oath at these gatherings. No one.
And in each
Well, technically speaking, I guess the senators themselves are under oath because they took an oath to do their job, but no one at the actual hearing has taken it. Yeah.
one of the cases, we were able to present, substantial evidence
No.
that has them seriously considering decertifying the election.
No one is seriously considering that.
In fact, as they wade through this evidence, they will find, as Professor Eastman so elegantly laid out in the testimony yesterday in Georgia, is really their duty, not just their right. But more on that just a teeny bit later.
Don't say more on it. It doesn't make your case look good.
Yesterday, there was a breakthrough of major proportions.
Oh boy. Is this the tape of the people tabulating votes, not counting votes? You know that part?
Well, this case treated in a country that's fair, in a country that had a free press.
You mean like, what, Lithuania? Switzerland. You mean Switzerland. No. Shit. Hungary. Which one? What country?
And in a country that had not the kind of censorship that's been imposed on us now for well over 3 or 4 months.
Oh, Iran. Right. You mean Iran.
Censorship made up of big tech, big business, big media, NBC, ABC.
Everything's big. I'm getting to the point where I'm starting to think you're trying to pretend you're the little guy, even though you're a millionaire yourself. You're getting paid $20,000 a day, and your client is an alleged billionaire who is at least a millionaire and is currently president of the greatest country on the planet. And but please go on. You're the little guy, and you're up against forces that are blah blah blah.
CBS, CNN, some mention of it on Fox, some, not a lot. Good deal of mention on OAN and Newsmax.
Yeah, they're great. They're so good. Newsmax and OAN, you can always count on them. It's almost as if their entire funding comes from sources that are trying to undermine confidence in American elections. I can't imagine what country would pony up that kind of dough, though.
About it. The American people are now being deprived of the most significant evidence of voter fraud that I've ever seen.
Why are they being deprived of it? You've said it in front of legislatures gathering. It's been streamed on YouTube. Everybody can watch it. They don't need any help from the media. They're not carrying it for you because they vetted it and it's garbage, which is their prerogative as a news organization. They don't, you have freedom of speech, not freedom of someone else's megaphone. But anyways.
And one that answers the question, just in watching it.
What question?
That all of the allegations the Republicans are making are true.
That's not a question, that's a statement. Your Honor, move to strike.
After all, we have produced well over...
Am I the only one that...
Answers the question, just in watching it, that all of the allegations the Republicans are making are true.
All right.
After all, we have produced...
Not a question, also not true.
Produced well over 700 affidavits sworn to by eyewitnesses.
That they think they saw something they didn't see.
And we're told we have no evidence.
I'm telling you, you have no evidence. You have assertions by sympathetic voters and activists who want to override the rights of every other American.
And the phony media repeats it, and we occasionally have it repeated on Fox.
Oh, Fox. Et tu, Fox, eh? Et tu, Ducey?
We're told that they've debunked the theory that inspectors were thrown out of examination of mail-in ballots.
No, there was no theory. I would take evidence with calling it a theory. They've debunked your allegations.
Instead, we have 4,400.
What's the difference? 4,400. I mean, it's not like this whole voting thing is about counting.
Affidavits of inspectors being thrown out.
They weren't thrown out, though. There were too many. They showed up without having signed up and were demanding entrance, and some had long guns. They weren't thrown out. They had no right to be there. Oh, thank you.
There's no doubt they were thrown out.
Oh, lovely.
The media prefers to print the lies of Biden, the Democrats, the
Thank you.
establishment. Lies
I love-
supported by big tech, big media, big business.
Came in here and printed something and he had a heart attack.
Oh, he gets scared? That's hilarious. I don't feel scared when I see it, but I do feel odd when I look over my shoulder because I have to show you. Apparently, my girlfriend's son came down to print something. Didn't know, I guess I was upstairs. Didn't think there was anybody downstairs, which there isn't, but turned a corner and almost walked into TJ from Lab Rats. And my cardboard cutout was right in front of the printer. And he was like, oh, hi, TJ, how you doing? I have to admit that it reflects in the downstairs bathroom mirror, and sometimes I'll be like washing my hands in the mirror and look up, and it's so well done. I just go, oh, hi, TJ. It's like, who's smiling at me? It's fun. Yeah. So this is yes, I have a girlfriend. Just don't tell my wife. So here we go. She just brought me coffee. This is lovely. Lovely.
Supported by the crooked Democratic Party.
Okay, so let's hear all the enemies list that he has compiled again.
The establishment. Lies supported by big
By the way, the establishment you'll recognize as the base boogeymen of the Bernie bro crowd, which largely is made up of about like 5% actual Bernie supporters and 95% bots and troll farms pretending to be Bernie supporters, ginning up conflict within the Democratic Party. And they love to use the phrase establishment at the same time talking about the establishment clauses in the Constitution. And yeah.
The media prefers to print the lies of Biden, the Democrats, the establishment.
Over your lies? That's terrible. Your lies should get equal time.
Lies supported by big
Facts.
tech, big media, big business.
Big media, big tech, big business, big everything. Meanwhile, poor little Rudy is left over in a corner, tiny, little, small, shriveled. It is cold out where he is.
Supported by the crooked Democratic Party. Supported by the radicals, by Black Lives Matter.
The radical Black Lives Matter. It's those corrupt black people. They're everywhere.
And Antifa, who are all involved in this.
Antifa are all involved in this, but they don't vote. Why would they be involved? They want their own mini fiefdom. I would argue, if you argue at all, that the Antifa crowd, and I'm talking about the hardcore, wearing all black, chucking cans of soup crowd, are the left's version of the right's sovereign citizen groups. Same assholes, watch the same videos, have a different takeaway. Like I think Hulk could beat up Superman. I think Superman could beat up the Hulk. Kind of an argument back and forth between, but basically the same overlapping people. Right.
And also
The TYT people, right, love the word establishment. Because establishing something and working hard to maintain it is in and of itself evil.
cheering in the background, with some role in it, Communist China.
Way back in the background, cheering it on.
This is a
Communist China.
swindle of major proportions.
Major.
And
Major proportions. Reporting for duty, sir. What's up, Private Parts?
now you're going to see a tape that honestly makes it look like a bank heist in the middle of the night.
Well, only because it's security cameras and there's no sound and you're telling us something has happened. It's, I suppose the cleaning crew at a bank looks like a heist when they're emptying the garbage cans. If you just go, see those garbage cans full of money? Yeah, those aren't bank slips. That's money. That's cash. Somebody else dumped cash into those bags. They walked out with them. See how they just walk right out the door with the garbage? Yeah, that's not garbage. That's money. But it's not money. How do you know? That's the entirety of their argument.
Remember those great movies with Pierce Brosnan?
Yes?
Get in the bank, middle of the night, they take the safe apart. Nobody around, they'd wait until everybody leaves.
Is it what Pierce Brosnan movie was this? They break in the middle of the night, take the bank apart. What? Huh? There's two bank heisty kind of things in the, I think it's The World Is Not Enough. And they entail a bill that was laced with urine to explode, and him jumping using his belt and a piece of blinder string tied to a semi-dead hitman and a chair to drop to the street and escape before doing this with a suitcase full of urine-soaked money. Oh, it's a Thomas Crown affair? Good one, okay.
How come they didn't do it in front of the guards?
What guards? Oh, in the movie, I guess.
Because they were committing a crime and they'd get caught. Well, we are going to show to you.
Why are there not guards when people are sweeping up a restaurant at the end of the night? Why are there no guards when the accountant is miles away calculating how much money the jewelry store made that year while they file their taxes? Why are there no armed guards there?
You today, under any other circumstances, would be considered a breakthrough of major proportions. All these weeks of Republicans coming up with evidence, affidavits, expert opinions, even some tape recordings, but nothing like this. This is a bank heist.
Well, then I don't know what it has to do with an election then, clearly. I mean, obviously. And who are we in this bank heist? Is this, are we talking a heat kind of bank heist, or are we talking about nut job?
Pulled off in the middle of the night, clearly indicating.
Well, not the middle of the night, clearly. This side of the night.
That the Georgia Democrat Party was stealing the election for Joe Biden on purpose and completely against the law. So let me get you oriented to the film because it's a very long film.
Yes, I've watched the whole thing.
And we can only show you a little bit of it right now. That's all we have.
Oh, I see. It's a very long film, but we can only show you a little bit of it right now because if we show you the whole thing, you'll know we're full of shit. See, this is one of the reasons why I do this show this way. And again, to all the people who, love to slam on me in Trump world, understand I'm basically the only guy going all the way through this shit. I'm not picking little pieces out. The only time I ever take little pieces of something is to show you the little pieces that Trump picks. 35 seconds here, 9 minutes here, 56 seconds, 57 seconds, 52 seconds, a minute 38. These are the only, he only took, Jenna Ellis was on for an entire, 2 segments. They get 35 seconds of useful video out of that. And I guarantee if you watch this 35 seconds, it doesn't help. And anytime he's like, why are you even saying that? How do you dare you even say it? You can watch this shit all the way through, Crowder. You can watch this shit all the way through. Any of these things, go and watch them. Go watch Rudy's whole goddamn video all the way through, and you'll find that I didn't go, hey, I don't have time to show you all of Rudy's video, but here's the part that I snipped out to make it look like he's talking out of his ass. Because I don't have to. I can show you the whole thing, break it down as I go, cite facts throughout, and take a, as Trump would say, huge dump on what he's saying through the whole fucking thing. It's not my fault Rudy's researchers are too lazy or too afraid of the truth, or his viewers are either of those things, to look at the whole thing. Here's what I would say to Rudy Giuliani and anybody in his staff. Do a streaming marathon. I stayed up all friggin' night on election night. All night. I was awake all night, but for a couple of seconds, according to Gonzo. But I was awake all night from noon on election day to noon the next day. I stayed awake through the whole thing. If I can do that by myself, you can have a rotating bunch of OAN assholes play Rudy Giuliani's tape of those people all day, talk over everything they do, and go, that's suspect, and that, but what are they doing there? What's that part? Do it. And they won't. They will not. I guarantee you they will not. And you know why they won't? Is because all the moments that he's about to show you were like, look, where did those come from? If you watch the whole fucking tape, you realize, oh, they were put there a half an hour before to be handled after the work of the day was done. That's why.
Have right now are portions of it.
Yeah, you only have portions of it. No, you have the whole thing. You just said that yesterday in front of the Georgia legislature. You have the whole thing. You got the whole thing.
I've seen the whole thing, and the whole
You've what? Yes, Rudy's watched all 14 hours.
whole thing is even more devastating.
Well, then play the whole thing, or play all of the incriminating chunks.
But it will take some time to analyze it and get it freed up.
Analyze and get it freed up? From what?
But here's the point.
Yeah, okay, so this is the video we were talking about. You guys remember, I've gone through this shit already with their person showing it to the Georgia legislature by fast forwarding to different points. I hope to God he plays the part where they go, where'd this table come from? When it comes in at the same time that all these other tables were brought out.
What you have in front of you now are 4 frames from 4 different video cams, safety cams, that recorded probably all night. Certainly by 8 o'clock in the morning, they were recording well through 1, 2, or 3 o'clock when this all ended. But right now it looks empty.
They ran all night. That's what security cameras do. When the lights are out, they switch to infrared, and it's to check and make sure that nobody broke in. But they have to finish scanning these ballots that or the tabulation papers before they leave, and that's again, you get. And for those of you that haven't seen this before, person at one of these tables gets a stack of ballots. They go through those ballots with a poll book, checking them. The number by number, how many came in that are checked off in the poll book. The poll book they have says this many people dropped them off. So there was an envelope attached to these. If there's more or less than, then you're missing ballots. And not just the ones that went out, but the ones that actually came in. They have to come in, be checked off, and then you get a privacy envelope. They separate the privacy envelope from the ballot, put the ballot in a stack, run it through these machines, these things that are covered in a dust cover earlier in the day. That's their whole job. Then at the end of that, they get a copy of the tabulation paper and the actual tabulation paper itself, and they give the copy to these people in the back that goes in these boxes until they do that. So you count all day and you count all day and you get 10,000, 50,000, 100,000 ballots over the course of, a few hours, and then you hand over these 10,000 or 12,000 that they get from their area and over with the tabulations for each 50 to 100 votes, whatever their breakdown is. So there's one sheet for every 50 in these boxes, right, that have to be added, that have to be tabulated. The votes have been counted. The tabulation has to be uploaded so the state knows how many votes were counted in that area. They have a copy of that sheet that's attached to the box of ballots. The ballots are stored. They're kept for later. But the tabulations have to be scanned, and that's when in the middle of the night at 2 o'clock in the morning, we just got a batch of ballots, and Steve Kornacki's up all goddamn night counting out those things. That's because these folks upload the tabulation papers, not the counted votes themselves, but the tabulation pages of the counted votes. There's one for every 50 to 100 approximately. There are 10,000 votes done in an area. That's a lot of sheets, so they run all those through a machine. Takes about an hour and a half. Off they go. No votes being counted, just being tabulated. These boxes, see this box right here? They're like, where'd those boxes come from? Earlier in the night, before these people start packing up, they two of them push those boxes underneath there to clean up the floor as everybody's leaving. They put a couple of these other boxes where they have to be stored for the next day, and then they just kind of finish tabulating, which is the part that lets the state know how many this whole area has counted during the time that they've been sitting there that are left over. They do this all day, too. The activities of these women, if they watch earlier in the day, there are a couple of times where they get a whole box filled up, and then they roll it over there, and then these ladies tabulate it. That's how it works. We're a first world country. Yeah, Fox News has even debunked this bullshit. But watch him cut out all the earlier parts or any explanation and act like he doesn't know what's going on.
And I want to therefore lay out what to look for.
Okay, yeah. So don't look for other stuff. Just look at what I'm going to be your confirmation bias guide through this whole exchange.
And where different people were located. If you look in the upper right-hand corner.
You mean the one with people in it right now?
You will see
5 people. There's a 5th behind my Venmo. Sorry. But there's over in this corner. Hold on, let me see if I'll move this down like that. See, and this is really all they're going to focus on is these two, these two areas. Mainly, they want to focus on this area right here. So, in the corner there's 2 people, 2 ladies here. These are their desks. The yellow shirts, their desks are here. Purple shirt. There's another purple shirt over here. And then this person, the supervisor's in red. And then they all work, again, in front of a giant window with the lights on inside. So anybody here would actually have that even wanted to look, would see exactly what they were doing and would know would have a better view than these cameras. But, if you're going to heist something, you want to do it in front of a large bay window.
That there are a group of tables toward the back. Those are the tables where the calculations and tabulations are done.
No, those are, yes, the calculations and the tabulations are done. So they're tabulating the votes, which are been counted. He wants you to think that counting and tabulating are the same thing. You're going to hear a lot of that overlap because that's the only way they can sell this bullshit. Thank you, K-Fresh. That's awesome. Are you part of the K-Hive? Because that was fantastic. All right.
That's where the votes are calculated and put into the vote count.
No, those are where they are tabulated after they've already been counted by these folks who went home for the night. So there is only tabulation left to do. A easily confirmable activity that has nothing to do with the removal of ballots from their envelopes or any of that shit. And the counting machines are these things. Zip, 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 zip. That they made a big thing about how suspicious this table being next to this thing was. They made a whole big thing about it. That whole case falls apart when you cover this thing with a dust cover and don't go anywhere near it during this process.
Presumably examined. And they are supposed to be examined with the observation of third parties, including Republicans and members of the press.
No, that is false. The counting process, which is what he's talking about, can be viewed from a distance, but since you're not judging signatures at this point, these people are just removing ballots from privacy envelopes to maintain the privacy of the people who voted, because if you did the envelope part and the ballot privacy envelope separation in the same station with people looking over your shoulders, those people and you would know how that person voted. And anybody with a yellow legal pad could go, that person voted for Biden, that person voted for Biden. So whose houses are we firebombing this weekend? That's why it's separated. This is just dumb.
If you come, let's say, down or further toward the front of that frame, it's the
further towards the front. Is this going to be the mystery table?
Frame in the upper right-hand
Yes, we know, Rudy. It's the only one with people in it. Get on with it.
corner. And
Thank
I
you,
will list
Jason.
it as frame number 1.
Yeah, why not? Just call that frame number 1, even though it's frame number 2.
you'll see
Just like your argument.
a
Table.
black
Table.
or a table covered what appears to be a black cloth.
It's a black table covered in a black cloth. Just like that's a black table covered in a black cloth. And that's a black and you get a black table covered in a black cloth. And you get a black table. All right.
And then right behind it, something like a table or possibly something else, a bin covered in white.
Covered in white. Okay. For all of you that had seen this shit before, the bin right here is exactly like these bins. This is their final work for the night. That white, that covered in white, is one of these ballot boxes. It's empty. In the beginning of this video, if you watch before he picks it up, a woman comes over and picks it up and holds it, and it's empty. You can see that it's empty, and she sets it back down because they're not ready to do that part yet. There's nothing. It's not covered in white. It's not. It has an empty bin on. It has one of these things empty on top of it.
Activity is going to take place.
All right, the activity. Tell me about the activity. Tell me about suitcases.
Right there. Mm-hmm. If you go down from that, you will see number 2.
Mm-hmm. I'm already seeing number 2, Rudy.
Right down from it on the right-hand side of the 4 frames.
This one?
You'll see a frame of largely most of the room, except from the perspective now of the people counting the votes, because they're out of the picture. And
that's not from the perspective of the people counting the votes. These are the people who would be counting the votes. This is where the counting goes on. And it's where, like, he just shit on his own argument because he just told you what happens. This is where tabulation happens. This is where counting goes on. The people who count have left. The people who tabulate are still there. They have to take the stuff that's accumulated over here over the course of the day from the counting and upload it and verify it and report it in triplicate.
And they are looking back.
No, this is a camera that's on the ceiling. Spider-Man did not count votes in Georgia.
At what's happening. So, first thing you see on the right is that same box, covered in black, with the white box or bin next to it. Then you see another table that seems to have been inserted. And then way toward the back, toward the wall, you see it's empty at this point, but that's where during the day the observers are allowed to stand and observe.
Yes, they are there to observe the counting. Counting has ended.
That would include members of the press, Republican, Democrat, Independent, whomever. Public access so you can assure that the counting is honest. And what you see here is you see the area where the press and the observers are located. You see that at the very back of the photo, against the wall, and that's basically facing back to frame 1.
Frame 1.
So 1 and 2 constitute one frame, looking at it this way and looking at it that way.
So they constitute 2 frames.
The frames, let's call it 3 in the bottom left-hand corner.
Sure, since we're so clockwise.
Perspective from the side. And there we don't seem to have an observation of the critical black table or the critical table covered in black. To me, it eerily looks like some form of a casket, and you expect...
Yeah, that's what it looks like. It looks like a casket. These are all... I mean, these basically... Don't these all look like black draped caskets, eerily? These look like beige draped caskets, which is really only done in the spring. I mean, most of these caskets are autumns. I don't know why they insist on wearing these colors.
Dracula to come out of it, and since they do this at 1, 2 in the morning, maybe it could only be done at night. I don't know, when you commit crimes like this.
By the way, somehow the Dracula vampire thing has bored its way into Rudy's subconscious. It's been bugging him lately.
And when you go up to number 4, when you go up to number 4, you can see we get most of the table in the bottom, and basically in the bottom of the picture, you can see the table. You can see the...
No. No, see what's right here? There's this, and then there's another one next to it. There's two of these. There's this, and then there's this and this. And you can even see the little box right here. That's that. See this and that? See the same thing from that angle? See that? This is a whole other table next to this, which unfortunately also shoots down your idiotic argument that this is a mystery table. Why would you put it next to this thing when they put another one just like this and basically have two of these separate for all these folks when they finish doing their counting and tabulating or they take their chunks of ballots, their stacks of them, and they run them through the machines and they put on that table in a bin during the course of the day their tabulation document that gives an index, a summary of all the votes, and then they attach one copy with the box with the votes themselves, put them back in their other box for storage until they can be certified or if they need to do a recount or an audit, and then the other one goes into a box like this. And those are dumped into the bigger ones when they get too full. And then by the end of the night, they have 4 of these things, and each one of these finishes out their job. They already have one other one they're not done with. So they have to finish those and then finish these, and then they can go home. These are just tabulation documents. This is so dumb.
White. We don't know if it's a table or bin behind it. And then you can see facing it the people who are going to be involved in evaluating and counting and
Cunting the what?
theoretically examining the vote, although they do very little examining, if any.
No, they don't examine the vote. They count the ballots that are in front of them.
Now, let me take you back just a little,
Yeah, back it up because you're losing me.
because we don't have this tape yet. I've seen it, but it hasn't been produced yet.
What? You've seen it, but it hasn't been produced yet. We need a good producer. Right now, they're starting a Kickstarter to turn this into a found footage movie. It's kind of like the Blair Witch Project, but like the bullshit project.
And the lady who is a lawyer from an institute,
Yeah, well, that's all the credentials I need. A lawyer from an institute. Your Honor, we'd like to present her. What does she do? She's a lawyer from an institute. We paid her dollars from a money thing.
who analyzed all this, is going to explain it to you.
Ooh, a lawyer from an institute that analyzed all these things. Is she from the Institute of Analyzing Things?
The votes that were counted around 1 or 2 in the morning.
None were counted around 1 or 2 in the morning. The tabulations were uploaded at that point.
Were brought in about 8:30 in the morning.
Yeah. Okay.
The morning before.
No. Right. No, I understand. The votes were counted all day. The tabulations were uploaded as they went along during the day. The last batch was uploaded at the end of the night. Okay.
And they were put under that black table by a lady with blonde hair and braids. That's the way she's described. So
A black lady.
let me play this for you now.
Please do.
And I think this will help you somewhat
No, it won't.
follow it, although it does happen quite fast, but it is of enormous significance.
Tell us. I can't wait to see it. Maybe I missed something in the first 2 viewings of this horse shit.
And by the way, the number of votes here flips, without any doubt, Georgia, from Biden, who dishonestly won it, to Trump, who honestly won it.
If indeed those are votes that were somehow magically thrown to Biden.
And then there are about another 100,000 votes that also were stolen. But this,
Yeah, I mean, at this point, why? Do the numbers really matter? 4,400.
this alone does it.
At about 8 o'clock in the morning, we're going to
This is the same lady that walked us through the whole thing before. He's just playing the tape of her playing the tape. We did this already.
roll this back and show it to you.
Please do.
There you go. So now they're going to start pulling these ballots out from under this table.
Those aren't ballots.
This table, the black one, was placed there by the lady with the blonde braids at about 8:22 a.m. in the morning. So
By herself, she's a beast. I mean, say what you will about her electioneering capabilities, but when it comes to hucking furniture, this bitch has game. She, blonde braid lady can bring in... Oh, wait, somebody else helped her? Oh, and that was when they were bringing in all the other tables at the same time? Roll that back. Show us that part.
So she put that table there.
Amazing. She's a beast. Didn't even use a dolly.
So the same person who's staying behind now, the same person who cleared the place out under the pretense that we're going to stop counting,
She did stop counting.
is the person who put the table there.
Yeah, the table's been there all day, so as the one next to it, it came in next to all the others.
At 8:22 in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I saw 4 suitcases come out from underneath the table.
Yeah, if you back up earlier when you cut this video off and Rudy's picking up after she did this, we all watched this yesterday. There are 2 of these boxes sticking out from under the table and 2 on top of the table that they put under the table to wait till later after these folks have all cleared out and left. Then they go back and get them. They put them out of the way because people are leaving. You can see them in full view before this bullshit.
Now we can see the lady in the left-hand corner who had just come to take the ballots from hidden under the table.
They're tabulation documents.
Over to the left-hand corner counter, and she's giving.
She doesn't count over there. She tabulates them, meaning she uploads the count from the day so the governor and the Secretary of State and the press know how many votes are coming in over the course of that.
Them out and apparently giving some instructions to the person.
They're not suitcases. They're the exact same boxes they were using all day. Look at that. They're the same. These are the same.
Who's going to count those ballots? There had been one previously given out, and now we're going to see a man in a red or pink, depends on how the coloring came out here.
Yeah, it's true. Really, it's probably pink because he's probably an activist, if you know what I'm saying.
Taken up.
Black dude, pink shirt, need I say more?
Another batch of votes hidden under the table for clandestine examination.
Clandestine examination.
Without observation by anyone independent.
Yeah, upper right hand, you see the gentleman in the red. So he just pulled one out.
Yeah, and we saw that box pushed in before you start this section of the video.
Just to stop for a minute, you can see that the man in the red went all the way from there to the furthest part of where the counters are.
Yeah, closest to the window.
See him now, but
dude's clearly a master criminal.
I'm putting a marker on him, and he's all the way over in the corner, showing the counters in the corner what to do.
Because they need to be taught how to fake this, even though they planned it since 8 a.m. the morning before, and this was always the plan. This guy's got to teach them how to commit a major heist. What is this, heist camp?
The woman with the yellow sweater on who had delivered that batch to the group on the left seems to have already completed her mission in telling them how to count and presumably telling them to count quickly.
Presumably is a good word. Presumably. See, presumably, from the interview we saw and the footage available, Rudy Giuliani thought the woman he was whipping his dick out in front of was 15 years old.
Because I want you to note, that's why I stopped it, that when you watch this and you look down to frame 2, would you please notice that there are no observers?
Yeah, because no counting is going on.
That whole observer table has no one.
That whole observer table has no one.
Not a single person. This is why it was done this way.
Why was it done this way, Rudy? Tell us. Why was it done this way? Tell us.
So they could be counted when there were no observers around. What's the point of bringing them in at 8 o'clock in the morning?
They weren't there at 8 o'clock in the morning. Go back and watch the video. Watch the video 10 minutes before you started the video playing, and you will see them sticking out from under the table and 2 on top. That they put them under there while they were cleaning up, and then the other people go back and go, yeah, these are the ones we need, so we got to use them. Somebody else shoved them under there. You can see them sitting there.
Not counting them right away in front of the observers.
They're not counting. They're tabulating.
And waiting until 1:30 in the morning and counting them then with nobody around.
They didn't count any. They tabulated.
What that adds up to in any trial, in any court in America,
Is you being thrown out of court again for wasting the court's time because they've already reviewed this, and you can look at the log of what happened during those hours. No new votes were added. Tabulations were uploaded. There was no counting on those machines. The Secretary of State looked at it, and he's a Republican. The governor, who's a Trumpster, looked at it, and he's a Republican.
is evidence of guilt. They didn't do this because it was more fun to do it secretly. If these were honest
Did he just fart, or was that was a chair squeaking?
ballots, they'd have been very happy to show it to the Republicans and the reporters. But if these ballots are all in the same signature,
They're not.
have tremendous
There are no signatures at this point. These people have privacy envelopes that they separate from the ballots. There's no signatures involved in any of this. That's done in another place to preserve the privacy of the vote.
deficiencies, need to be filled in more, maybe a blank and need to be filled in. They are perfectly at liberty now to do it.
No, they're not. They're on camera, and they know they're on camera.
And the protection that the
And they have an observer there from the state. It's a tabulation. It's already counted. They can't do anything to insert votes in this part.
law of
Their machines don't count votes. They are tabulators. If you start counting votes on those machines, it would show up as such. There would be a log that you were actually adding votes instead of using tabulations. Good God.
Georgia. And then ultimately, under the United States Constitution, the Constitution of the United States gives
Oh, okay.
you for the protection of your vote has just been devastated.
It's been devastating. The Constitution of the United States and Georgia somehow was both what?
The Constitution at
Run this
liberty
by me
now
again.
to do it. And the protection that the law of Georgia
I don't know if he just shit a walnut that fell on a metal part of the chair.
and the protection that the law of
Sorry. It just sounds like he leans over to fart and a lug nut falls out of his ass.
perfectly at liberty now to do it. And the protection that the law of
Honestly, that is the most seriously, is this robot Giuliani? I'm sorry.
liberty now to do it. And the protection that the law of Georgia
Dude, that fart was so hot, it changed the molecular structure of the metal chair. Tank.
and then ultimately under the United States Constitution
His butt plug fell out. It's been, it's probably why it sounds so hard. It's been in there since Four Seasons Landscaping.
the Constitution of the United States gives you for the protection of your vote has just been devastated. It's just been ruined by Georgia.
Ugh.
We'll be right back.
Oh, good.
I couldn't believe we were
I couldn't believe we lost our house because we was doing a thing. I almost feel like I have to buy this thing. Notice there's a glory hole right over my shoulder where a penis is poked through every so often, and I just take a nyong on it.
evicted from our
It's how I make my money.
home that we didn't even sell. Those are the words of a homeowner,
Those are
Deborah,
the
when she
words
learned she was
of
the
a
victim
homeowner.
of home title fraud.
Piano
Devastating
music,
crime
so you
that
know
can
I
cost you your
really
home.
mean it.
And title fraud is
Oh,
not
we've already seen this shit before.
home title lock.
Cleveland is a terror eviction
Around
from
your
apparently George Washington's home.
homes. Go online to HometitleLock.com
And see that-
code.
Yeah,
Let's
that-
go back to a story that if it doesn't shock you, there's something wrong.
I love. You know what? This such. I mean, say what you will, but the ability to analogize that this man has is so. If you're not impressed by him, then it's you thing don't not have.
To a story that if it doesn't shock you, there's something wrong.
Yeah, we're gonna need a rewrite on that. We just can't open the show that way. If it doesn't shock you, there's something wrong. Well, yeah, but that's not. There's no drama in that statement. That's just ridiculous.
Let's go on with this wonderful presentation by
Let's go on with this wonderful presentation. It's wonderful.
by the expert.
By the expert, who, by the way, is not on the legal team and is just donating her time, but just got the video the night before. It hasn't had to watch it. We had to fast forward through a lot of it, but we were here to make claims in front of the Georgia state legislature and get them to override the will of the voters before we even watched the whole video. We had it since last night. I mean, we could have been up all night watching it in shifts, taking notes, but fuck that. We just need to fast forward to the end and make up the middle.
So
You guys have watched like Raiders of the Lost Ark, right? Where if you stop right after they go, the government guys have their concerns with Ravenwood, and then you jump to the end and you find that, it's clear that since Indiana Jones doesn't fire on the Ark of the Covenant, that he's clearly a Nazi now. If you don't watch the middle, I mean, that's a bunch of bullshit. But, in the beginning of Raiders, when he's like stealing shit and then the guy has come and he's obviously sleeping with his students, and you jump to the end and he's obviously got magical powers and is the super Nazi, right? Right? That's how that story goes, right? I mean, I didn't watch the middle of it. I don't know what's going on.
what are these ballots doing there, separate from all the other ballots?
They're not ballots.
And why
If you watch the whole video, you know this, which they fast forwarded through.
are they only counting them whenever the place is cleared out with no witnesses?
They're not counting them. They're tabulating.
Is the question.
I gave the answer. You're welcome. Have fun.
So these machines can process about 3,000 ballots an hour. You have multiple machines there, and they're there for 2 hours. So you do the math.
Okay. Let's see. 0 ballots counted, but a bunch of ones tabulated. So to carry the 2. So no, 0. Okay, 0.
How many ballots went through those machines in those 2 hours when there was no one there to supervise, to be present, consistent with your statutes? And
0, because those machines are tabulation machines. They are separate in their station. These areas, all day long, no one counted votes in these areas. No one. If you watch their whole video, if you roll back, and they'll admit to this, no one counted votes at any of these. They tabulate the votes counted, upload them to the state's database, and scan them because they have to be scanned, and then they place the paperwork on top of the bin and put it back or whatever with the tabulation bins. And at the end, these folks count all day long. These folks tabulate all day long. The machines that they use for the tabulation, these little printer scanner things, are different than the vote counting machines that everybody at the counting station uses. They have different uses. They have different source code. They keep a different log of stuff. That log is reviewable. That log has been reviewed. If you requested through a Freedom of Information Act a review of that log, you would find out that no new votes were added, that these were tabulations, that no one counted or added any in a time period that would be equal to the time period that you're making up. It would simply be that these votes that were counted over the last 4 hours or whatever their timescape was, before they went home, they had to upload those tabulations so nobody could sneak in here like the Republicans do later on and try to change the tabulation documents that get uploaded. Now, ultimately, that wouldn't do anything because they have, like I said, they upload a copy of those tabulation documents, and then there's another copy of the tabulation document that's attached to the batch of votes that's already been counted.
rules.
Yes. The bins are from different precincts, but they're aligned. So because of the volume of mail-in vote, and people are asking us, is each bin a different precinct? Each bin is attributable to a precinct. They are not a different precinct because of the volume of votes. Maybe normally they'd have so few that you could put all the mail-in votes from one precinct. Thanks, Jason. You could put all of those in one, but since there's so many mail-in ballots this time, they needed way more people to do this, and the processing of it was a much bigger undertaking. And so to guarantee this thing, what would be normally you could probably do all the tabulations with one desk, they needed 4 desks going full time to tabulate all these things.
To supervise the tabulation.
Tabulation. There she said it. To supervise the tabulation. Tabulation is not the counting of ballots. Tabulation is the logging of the counted ballots.
We believe that could easily be, and probably is certainly, beyond the margin of victory.
It isn't, because you just said they're not counting ballots, therefore adding any that were done out of the sight of anyone. They are tabulating the already counted votes before they go home for the night, so that when they start in the morning, there can either be no shenanigans while they're not there during the night, because state law means they have to scan and tabulate all those, upload the tabulations to the state's database before they leave. After counting is stopped, one would think that if the act of counting takes an X amount of time, and after the ceasing of counting, and tabulation is an act that only takes place after votes have been counted. We can agree on that, right? I mean, everybody listening can understand the concept that if my job is to upload the tabulated votes, the accumulated vote count from an area, right? If my job is to do that, I can't do my job until the counter finishes their job. Right? Right? Now, the observation of the counting is the part that is a matter of public record and is a matter of being viewed by people to make sure that people aren't, during the counting process, adding ballots that shouldn't be there. So they can watch on these 4 screens. They saw all these things which he's pretending aren't there. They were able to watch this on monitors provided to them. They can watch from over here. They can see the tables. They can see nobody, walking out for a smoking break and coming back in with a garbage bag and a rolling suitcase full of, this is just newspapers I want to read during my break, and adding ballots like that. So these guys that were standing over here all know what's going on during the counting process. After they're done, there is a huge undertaking of tabulating the ballots that have been counted. Seriously. This is such an you cannot tabulate until you are done counting. And after someone is done counting and the counting is done, the final tabulation is still to be done. All right, that part we can all agree on. Even the dumbest maggots among us, I think, have to understand that you cannot work with a sum until you achieve a sum mathematically.
In this race.
So let's write her numbers down.
Okay, yep, write her numbers down. These are the votes we think are fake because we're not paying attention to the difference between tabulation and counting. And then we multiply that by a number that will give us the win, and then we come to and then we shit another lug nut.
She says, and you now at home, you correct me if you're wrong. If I'm wrong, put your hand up. I'll be able to see you. So we have 3,000 per hour per machine.
No. She's presuming that the machines covered in a tarp, which we saw earlier, those can produce that many. The machines that she's talking about do not count votes at all.
Okay. We don't know yet, and we'll find out officially what we have. If we look up and we look at frame 1, which appears to be showing all the ballot counters.
No, doesn't appear, it is showing the tabulation stations going after the counting is done to upload the day's count before they go. The people who count don't have to stay there because the counting is over. The counts of that day are done. There is no more counting to be done. Therefore, there need not be any election judges to look at the people counting with a suspect eye. There's an observer right there, and these people are basically just rubber stamping the documents and uploading them, so the state has an idea what's being counted already, what is yet to be counted.
Like the ballot counters seem to be at one end of the room where the glass partition is.
The glass partition is. You mean the window? And secondly, the ballot counters are over here in the other frames. They aren't counting. They're tabulating. Your own lady said so. Your expert from the Institute of Stuff.
And the observers are at the other end of the room, so far away
that they're not seeing the tabulators because they don't need to see the tabulators because that's after the counting is done and it's already a fait accompli, and what they're supposed to watch is the people that are counting. Please continue.
Let's start with the fact, even the ballots that were processed before, nobody got a right to observe because you can't see a football field away.
They're not seeing ballots being processed, and they know that.
You know?
You know? Oh, Rochester.
Unless you're Tom Brady, maybe, and he wasn't there.
How do you know? What if he was? What if he was kicked out of the room? Did he even try to go? Why didn't he even try to go?
So they were stealing all day, but now...
Oh, were they? They were just stealing all day. So basically your Republican observers that were there were part of this? Were they in on it?
Now, they're in bank heist territory.
I see. Yeah, bank heist, big window, sure.
Surprised they didn't have masks on, you know? Mm-hmm. Well, maybe they do have masks on for COVID. We'll have to take a look.
Oh, that's an interestingly prescient joke to make at their expense. Man who is currently in hospital.
Hey, those COVID masks came in handy for these crooks, huh? So let's count the number of tables.
So what does that mean of the witness that you had that refused to take her mask off?
Tables we see there, which at least would give us some indication of the number of machines that we're going to multiply by 3,000. I'm counting now from left to right.
I see. 1, 2, 3, 4, and that's a supervisor's desk, and he doesn't have a machine, but 5. Even though there's no bins in front of his desk, I'm going to just go 5 and times 18. Let me write this down.
2, 3, 4, and 5. That fifth one is where the man in red went to the very back.
Yeah, he's the supervisor. He doesn't... Yeah.
And had it done.
And had it done. What? His vasectomy?
The first one is where the woman with the yellow shirt on brought the ballot she took out. And then we saw them...
Objection, Your Honor. Presumes facts not in evidence, not ballots, tabulation documents.
Brought to the 2 in the middle. Mm-hmm. So I would say there were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 operating machines.
Okay, let's do the math.
5 operating machines per hour, 3,000 per hour. So that's 6,000 in 2 hours. Who would like to add up 5 times 6? That's an easy one, right? 30,000.
See that edit?
5 times 6. That's an easy one, right? 30,000.
His face was facing the other way. You know he went 36,000. And they went, no, Rudy, that's not fine. Say 30,000. Oh, right. 30,000. Right.
What was the margin?
Look at this.
6. That's an easy one, right? 30,000. What was
nice edit.
The margin of victory? 10,000. Election over.
Well, yeah. I mean, honestly, that just settles it.
These are taken out of Maricopa County, where he was
behind,
where he was
he lost.
Had it also should be taken right out of the Democratic number. These aren't Republican county officials. These are Democrat county officials. Why should Republicans suffer for the crimes of Democrats? I know in Washington that's what they try to do.
I see. Oh, so it was really this is going to go into Hillary was really colluding with Russia.
But in America, people suffer for the crimes they committed. So these...
so Washington, D.C. is not America. I get it.
30,000 votes should be taken right out of Biden's number. They were done by Biden's people. In fact, they were done so blatantly by Biden's people. Our people were thrown out. And I know there's no longer a free press, But why aren't they angry that they were thrown out?
They weren't thrown out. I think that's why no one's angry, is because they can't get angry over something you misunderstand. Intentionally, by the way. I don't think you actually misunderstand. I don't think you're dumb. I think this is the best play you have to guarantee yourself a pardon from Trump and to get $20K a day, which, by the way, you're probably going to blow on your medical bills. Because I don't think Smoke Shop and LifeLock and those things give you, dental.
Because they're in the tank. I don't know if that's an expression everyone knows. It may be a New York
No, nobody knows the in the tank.
boxing expression. In the tank means you've been corrupted. You've been bought off.
Oh, that's what in the tank means. I see.
It means you're one of these creeps that can be purchased.
Oh, so you're in the tank. I see. You're a creep and you've been purchased. What am I missing?
If a reporter
If
looks at this and doesn't see a Pulitzer Prize winning story,
they do, on how somebody who used to be America's mayor has fallen so low as to even breathe this bullshit and pretend it's roses.
then give up the profession.
Yeah, you just quit. I mean, again, hitting that analogy thing right on the head.
Go do something else.
Yeah.
They might have done a bank robbery better than this. And let's see what kind of phone.
They might have done a bank robbery. I mean, what, the reporters? Oh, the reporters should quit reporting because they'd probably be better bank robbers than the people. Jesus Christ.
Excuse the Fulton County crooked Democrat counting machine is going to make for this one. And let's see if the crooked press accepts it.
Well, I hope you don't mean me, because I wouldn't view myself as crooked. I've paid attention to all your evidence. I read The Kraken, which was a waste of goddamn time, and I've seen your evidence, and I even watched these little clips that you're playing. I watched that lady's entire presentation and played it on my channel all the way through.
And let's see if any of the networks cover it. And then when the whole tape comes out and it's completely analyzed.
The whole tape has come out. The Secretary of State and the Republican governor have both seen it. They know that everything is on the up and up.
Here's what you'll see.
Here's what you'll see. What will we see?
You'll see them coming in the morning, all friendly, all everything. The observers are put at the, as you see in frame one, at the far end of the room where they can see nothing all day.
They're not in frame one. That's frame 4, asshole.
Complain all day that they can see nothing. They are ignored all day by the crooks. So all those ballots counted should be discounted. Mm-hmm. But in case, you just can't buy that. In case we have to hit you with evidence that we normally don't get in order to break down the propaganda exercise that was done on your mind. What you just saw is probably one of the most dramatic examples I've ever seen of someone trying to steal an election for president of the United States.
Yeah. You trying to help Trump turn the electors in a state that Biden won by using tape you are intentionally using to mislead your followers and in many ways grift them out of money when you know you're going to lose. I mean, it is atrocious, and I'm glad you finally have pointed it out, Rudy. And I hope you heal from COVID. I honestly do.
I mean, these people should all go to jail for a long time.
For what? For what?
And it's not good to say, like some of the senators tried to escape it, well, we'll fix it in the next election. Oh, my goodness, they've been saying that in Philadelphia for 50 years.
So President Trump didn't win Pennsylvania last time, is what you're saying?
They've been saying that in Chicago since Daley stole the 1960 election.
Chicago itself is one of the top 20 economies in the world. By itself. It's a functioning city.
I mean, all these Democratic cities, they've been saying for years they're going to fix it. You're not going to fix it. I know how you fix crime.
Yeah, how do you do it? Wait, let me guess. You focus the entirety of the law enforcement in your city as mayor and as a DA on one particular criminal group for the benefit of another criminal group. Is that how you do it? I mean, that's how you do it, but is that how you do it?
You put the criminals in jail and you reverse the consequences.
Oh, you mean, oh, I see. You mean like pardoning Roger Stone and pardoning Paul Manafort and pardoning Mike Flynn and I see. Okay, yeah. So you put them in jail and then you reverse the consequences, which would take them out of jail?
And there are laws to do that.
There are laws to put, yeah, the president can pardon whoever he wants, and that's what you want from him as a pardon. I get it. Okay.
This
Yeah.
is beyond the competence of the rest of the state government.
This is beyond the competence of the rest of the state government. Only Rudy Giuliani is more competent than the state of, what state are we talking about again?
The United States Constitution, as I pointed out, gives us the remedy, the sole remedy.
All right, what's the sole remedy? The sole remedy!
And this is a chance for us maybe to work our way out of this by reaffirming the genius of the United States
The
Constitution.
genius. Bring us the genius, Rudy. That's right. What is it?
Can you believe that
Can you believe? I gotta believe.
our founding fathers
The founding fathers
anticipated
anticipated
that this kind of corruption could happen?
it could happen.
Of course you can believe it.
I can believe it. You can believe it. Everybody believes it. Rudy, bring it home. Tell us what happened.
Madison once said, if men were angels, we wouldn't need governments.
Oh, so the government of Georgia, even though that's a Republican governor and a Republican Secretary of State and Lieutenant Governor, and they exist so that because you're not an angel and Trump's not an angel, and you would, I see.
Jefferson,
Jefferson, he was
angels, we wouldn't need governments.
the who?
Jefferson,
Well, moving on up to the east side, to the D-Muck's apartment in the back clank.
Franklin all had an equal
What? Come up with the word. What's the magic word, really? And they had an equal
critical attitude of the human personality.
equal critical attitude of the human personality. So you're saying they put checks and balances in case a president tried to make himself king and override the will of the voters by forcing states to do things that were against. So states have their own constitutions in line with the federal constitution to protect against people like yourself. I see.
That could easily lead to corruption because of the desire for power and money. And
Yeah, that was something you and Donald Trump have never been accused of.
boy, these crooked Democrats have
Oh, boy.
both.
Oh.
Hillary pulling down hundreds of millions with the Clinton Foundation illegally.
Illegally? The Clinton Foundation, they didn't take that money from the Clinton. That goes someplace else. They shut it down because they wanted to. Your boss had to shut down his charity because it broke the law and they were stealing from it.
Biden pulling down hundreds of millions with the Biden family organized crime group.
And where did he put it? Because he's not spending it on shoes.
That's what we're dealing with.
Yeah, you know, nothing is worse than a secret criminal billionaire who still lives in a, you know, reasonably upscale, medium-sized house with his wife and 2 dogs.
But
never mind the fact that, you know, Trump gave an entire floor to the Russian mob to run a money laundering and prostitution, human trafficking organization out of. Anyways, what about that server in the basement of the Trump Tower that was hooked up to Alpha Bank in Russia? Never mind. Money and power. Anyways, you were money and power. You were saying money and power. Go. Woo!
let me give you a little more of the evidence there.
Please.
Because
Please, I'm going to need a little more evidence.
although this all by itself decides the election,
Does it? Okay, good. Well, that'll sum it up. We don't even have to listen to the other bullshit you have. This on its own, this is it.
let me say you're not dealing with just this one group of fraudsters
Oh, all right.
In Fulton County,
No, of course not. Fulton County couldn't by themselves take over the entire place. I mean, this is not the United States of Fulton County.
according to the analysis done by a recognized election expert,
A recognized election expert from the Institute of Electoral Recognition Incorporated, E per basunum, have a nice day.
a man who holds an MBA from Harvard,
An MBA from Harvard. Clearly not an elite.
a science degree from Duke. He's worked for
A science degree from Duke. He's worked for NASA.
NASA. He's worked for MIT.
Great, fantastic, genius. MIT and...
He does statistical analysis.
Oh, statistics. So, all right. So statistically, Trump should have won. If you compare it to other elections, never mind the fact that we're in a pandemic, then obviously.
Of many, many different things.
He's a statistical analysis of many, many different things. Obviously, that's why he has so many hit songs, because he can take the statistical analysis of a song and write a song based on the statistical output of a computer algorithm he wrote. And it's basically just Prince hit songs is what he does. Because statistically, if you have these things, then statistically you'll have a hit song. I mean, statistically, Creed should be the biggest band that ever lived. I mean, if you, statistically, Scott Baio is the star of Happy Days. Okay? Look at, all right, if you take this algorithm, I've broken this down. So take Leif Garrett, cross him over by Sean Cassidy, carry the David Cassidy, and put them together with, and then underscore, and divide that in half by the age of the Fonz in real life versus the age of his character. X plus 2, carry the 3, then Scott Baio, star of Happy Days. I mean, statistically, folks, you can't argue with that. Statistically speaking, Roseanne was in The Big Lebowski. Whether she was the star or not, I haven't done the math on that. But statistically speaking, she's in it because of the certain number of people that were involved in that production that also worked with her, that were in a capacity where they had a lead role above the line. Therefore, most of the time, Roseanne, when she works on a project, is above the line versus below the line. And if you carry the 2 and cross the X or whatever, John Goodman is basically statistically Roseanne.
Worked for MIT. He does statistical analysis of many, many different things.
Many different things.
Including elections. He has submitted an affidavit, and in court, affidavits of experts are evidence.
No, they're not. No, they aren't. They're not evidence. They are opinions of experts. They're not evidence. They're never presented as evidence. Jesus Christ, man. If your client is going to yell Law and Order on Twitter nonstop, you have to assume that a good portion of the public who hasn't watched nearly every episode of Law and Order during lockdown is going to watch a few of them because Law and Order keeps popping. You know what? Oh, maybe I will watch Law and Order. I don't know why I feel like watching Law and Order. It's almost as if I'm being hypnotized by the number of times this dipshit has yelled Law and Order. So, how many episodes? Okay, you can't watch, I would say, statistically speaking, 3 episodes of Law & Order without a situation where they go against, where the defense or the prosecution attacks an expert witness's opinion or testimony as either that very thing, a personal opinion, or as not being exact because it is opinion based on statistics or based on limited knowledge of the circumstance. You can create anything with statistics if you leave out a major factor of the equation. 2 plus 2 only equals 4 if both 2's are present and there's a plus between them. If you take out the plus, 22 does not equal 4. Do you understand what I'm saying? And that's what he's about to do. Rudy Giuliani is going to say 2 plus 2 equals 4, taking the plus out and leaving it as 22 equals 4.
The evidence they say we don't have. I'd just like you to look at.
That's not evidence. That's the opinion of your expert witness, which will be refuted by the expert witness on the other side, and will either balance out in the eyes of the court or be completely dismissed based on the equations in the eye of the court. But let's understand that this dude's math is supposed to, and I guarantee I've seen this dude's stuff before, so it's a little bit like cheating. But this expert that they had is using equations and statistical probabilities based on other elections where 50% of the electorate didn't vote by mail.
And sort of, if you see one of them, just show it to them very nicely, very politely, and say,
fuck you.
I'm a meek little Republican, and I know that you've been pushing us around for years.
Yeah, that's what's happened to, yeah, Republicans are pushing people around, or like have been pushed around.
And I know you're much tougher than we are. But you,
yeah, that's, I mean, so far you got me, all right.
But you know you cheated. Would you please admit it? See, this is the way I caught a lot of criminals that way.
Really? That's how you caught them?
That's the way I caught the. I went up to them and I said, I'm really afraid of you, but would you
Oh, I see. He's being sarcastic or ironic.
mind, Fat Tony, just testifying and telling me how many people you killed? I don't know what's wrong with us. The Democrats get together, stick together, commit heinous crimes. We can't get our people to do the right thing.
So why should you be in charge of the greatest country in the world? I mean, what if we're attacked? You guys can't even get it together to win an election in Fulton County. I got to trust you to be up against China or the Russians or the Iranians or the Saudis. No wonder your dude bows and bends over in front of every dictator in the entire world. You just admitted it, Rudy. Republicans are fundamentally weak. They herd cats and they can't get it together, and they're easily pushed around. Why, based on your assessment, should any Republican run the greatest country in the world? You have mountains of evidence and you can't win a case. You put 300 federal judges on the bench and those judges tell you to go pound sand. Why in the history of rat shit should anyone think that you should run anything?
I mean, why hasn't the governor called a special session?
Why hasn't he? I'm going to go with because Republicans are weak and don't deserve to be in charge, because if anybody else comes along that's a genuine threat to the country, they're just going to hand over the keys because you guys are a bunch of wusses. How weak are you that you can't apparently beat a bunch of black Democratic activist ladies with wigs, I suppose, in Fulton County, Georgia, and on that linchpin alone, you lose the whole election? You're that weak. You're that unorganized. Why would I vote for someone who can't organize their people against such a weak threat? You've had 4 years in the White House. You have control over the governorships of a bunch of states that you lost because huge amounts, you weren't prepared to be attacked during an election. Even though you say you've been attacked from day one or, day negative 15 before you even got the job. Seriously. What is this argument? What is the argument that you are hearing here? But that Republicans are incapable of organizing themselves into a functional body? If that's how Republicans act, why in the shit would anyone make one of them a governor, a senator, or a president of the United States? We have real threats in the world. No wonder China attacked us with a bioweapon on Trump's watch. They knew he was a wuss who would bend over just to make a little scratch for his family. That he would be too weak to stand up. The ink was still wet on my trade deal. I can't say no to that. I can't call out China for this until after my trade deal is passed. I really don't have it. I mean, I know it's going to kill a couple of 100,000 Americans for every month I delay, but I mean, guys, it's a trade deal that's going to make 50, not 50 billion. They're never going to meet that number, but 10, maybe 20% of what we agreed on, I hope at some point, but we'll leave Ivanka out of. Piss off.
He's all worried about people not voting in the Senate election. Doesn't he understand why they're upset?
Because they're ignorant and they've been listening to you and other dipshits like you lead them around and steal money from them. That's the other thing is that, the Republican leaders are bad enough that they can't organize, can't fight back, don't have a strategy. Mr. Farty, sweaty, wandering parking lot Four Seasons Total Landscaping are their last best hope. They had to fire the Kraken. Bad enough that Trump is in charge of everything and that you're the best lawyers he can find. You're in a hotel room doing a show with less production value than mine. And that just leaves us to the Republican voters at some point, who you are fleecing out of money with this bullshit when you know it's a dead-end campaign. And it's precisely what Putin, Iran, China, all these groups you think are aligned with the Democrats is exactly what they want to go, you know what? Democracy's a bunch of shit. It's too much work. Doesn't work anyways. You can't really trust it. Isn't it better to just hand over the reins to the tough guy in the room? And when I say tough guy, I mean the braggadocious asshole who leans over to a whatever, like a 6-time undefeated wrestling champion and goes, I'm bigger than you. I could probably take you, right? You'd have no chance. Well, probably. Rolls over in half a second. Get out of here. Stop stealing from your voters, you creep.
Don't you get it?
What?
They're upset because they were cheated.
Oh, I see. By you. You've gotten all this money from them, $200 million from his supporters after the election, and you keep losing.
They see something like this, they're going to go crazy. They should. They were cheated. The people of Georgia voted for Donald J. Trump.
Yeah, but more of the people of Georgia voted for Joe Biden.
And the Democrats and Trump stole it.
Whoops. I'm sorry? What was that again?
For Donald J. Trump.
Uh-huh.
And the Democrats and Trump stole it.
Oh. Excuse me?
For Donald J. Trump.
And then what?
And the Democrats and Trump stole it with the help of
Joe Biden? Did Joe Biden have anything to do with it? I mean, he is the guy who was actually running. What?
the media,
Oh.
big tech, and with the help of Republicans that don't have the spine to stand up to them.
I mean, oh, well, why would the Republicans have the spine to stand up to Trump and the Democrats? What?
I don't expect us to be dishonest
But we're going to be.
at all. I expect us to have courage.
What? All right. Back up.
To stand up to them.
Hold on. First,
And the Democrats and Trump stole it.
okay, that's great. Then what's this next part? Does anybody understand this?
With the help of the media, big tech,
right? Big Democrat,
and
uh-huh.
with the help of Republicans that don't have the spine to stand up to them.
Terrible. Spineless Republicans. These people are complete weaklings, these Republicans who won't stand up. Meanwhile, please vote for 2 of them for Senate because they're the strongest people. We need them there for their strength. These weak people who are strong but aren't strong enough.
I don't expect us to be dishonest at all. I expect us to have courage.
The courage to be dishonest? I mean, I understand he's impassioned, but I don't understand that sentence at all. The shit is that?
Dishonest at all. I expect us to have courage.
What?
So,
Anyways, where was I? Oh yeah, bullshit.
how about this?
How about this?
If you feel uncomfortable about changing the vote in Georgia, let me make you feel much more comfortable.
Okay, great. Are you going to fluff my pillows? What's happening?
Georgia
Uh-huh. Georgia.
ballots
Ballots.
with no return record at all. In other words, there's no record that this ballot was returned because when the ballot is returned, the number is checked off against the application when it was sent out.
No, that happens when it returns by mail. Okay, this is where he wants you to be stupid. The return is a postal return record that shows that it was sent out through the mail and returned through the mail. If you walk it in, it's considered an early vote and doesn't have that kind of record. And a shit ton of people didn't trust Louis DeJoy, especially Democrats, which heavily weighted in the mail-in ballot. And they went, fuck Louis DeJoy. I feel lucky I just got my ballot, so I'm going to walk it in person. And when they walk it in person, that's considered an in-person early vote in Georgia. No matter how you got it. And he knows this, and he wants you to pretend you don't know this. This is the same bullshit with the absentee applications in Wisconsin that he's trying to do. None of these people have filled out. You have to apply for an absentee ballot in Wisconsin, and a bunch of these ballots that were absentee have no application. That's because they walked in and did it in person. And for the sake of the record, voting early in person is considered absentee. So by being present, showing a photo ID, which is different from the polls, by the way, which means these absentee votes that he says shouldn't count actually count more by their estimation because you had to show an ID when you came into the clerk's office and go, hey, I want to vote early. And they hand you an absentee ballot because you will be absent on election day. And you fill it out after showing your photo ID, and you give it right back to them. It was never mailed out. A bunch of these ballots were never mailed out. They were never mailed out. And a bunch of these ballots were mailed out and never were mailed back in because they hand-walked them in because they didn't trust you.
There were 231,188 of those.
Yes, people who voted early, in person.
During the course of the pre-election,
early voting.
They were able to cancel out about 134,588 of those. However, they included ballots with no return record, and they voted 96,600 of those.
Yeah, those are people who walked them in. I don't know where he got the 136,000 not counted, but my guess would be those are the Republicans who tried to vote twice and they voted provisionally. So when you went in, it canceled your mail-in ballot. They chucked those out because they sent it in and then they didn't trust. And they came in and voted on the day and then they kicked it out. So on your thing, it redlines it and goes, count this one, not that one. Those are the people who went, you voted in person. Oh, I didn't mean to vote. I want to vote today. Right, that shit where Trump was trying to get his voters to vote twice. Basically, massive attempts at voter fraud by the Trump crowd. And racks up these numbers, and then later on they can pretend it wasn't their voters that did it.
Those should all be taken out. Those are all illegal.
No, they're not.
They should be taken out based on where they were in the county.
Based on where they were in the county? Why does the geography of the vote have anything to do with it?
And I would argue, given the fact that this fraud was perpetrated by the Democrat Party, it should be taken out of the Democrat account exclusively.
Based on what? I get it. So basically you tell a bunch of your voters to try and vote twice. They fail at it, but every attempt marks up a sketchy ballot, and you go, yeah, but even though we're not counting their ballot, take one of those votes out of the Democrats because our people tried to vote illegally, and count their provisional ballot. So 132,000 Republicans mail in their ballots voting for Donald Trump. Then at the president's orders and direction, show up on voting on actual election day or early voting in person, attempt to vote in person. It registers that they've already mailed in a vote. And they go, look, it says you've voted already. Well, I don't trust it. I want to vote here. Okay, well, it'll spoil the other ballot, but you can vote provisionally, and we'll count this one. Okay, fine. Then you take those as 132,000 Trump voters, approximately, or 90 some odd thousand Trump voters come in and try to vote twice. Of the 132,000 in that area that mailed them in, 96,000 try to vote twice. They come in, they vote provisionally, and 96,000 of those votes count, right? And what they want is because these people, same human beings, try to vote twice, they want to take out all the, their early votes that were spoiled and don't count because they voted provisionally. and take those early votes out of the Democratic toll. That's what Rudy Giuliani is arguing for right now. Mathematically, that's what he wants to have. He wants the Republican voters who voted for Trump to have their vote counted and at the same time allow that person to negate a Biden vote. That is the math of what he's arguing right now. That's how he's breaking it down.
Rather than just generally taken out of the vote as if it was just, a mistake. This isn't a mistake.
No, it's right. It's a bunch of Republicans attempting to vote twice who want their early vote that they committed voter fraud with to be taken out of Biden's count.
This was deliberate.
Yes, it was deliberate. The president told a bunch of his followers to vote twice, and a lot of people in the South did.
By the way, they run the vote counting. The Democrats run the vote counting. So why should we be penalized for their crimes?
You're not. You're not even being penalized. You're just living with the consequences of your own crimes.
There's another 96,000 votes. So now we have Trump winning by...
No, that is flat out false. That is 96,000 Trump voters who tried to vote twice and want the fact that they tried to vote twice to damage Democrats.
96,000.
Keep doing the math. It's fun to watch.
30,000. Oh, gee, 120. Kind of like where he was on election night. Huh.
You mean before mail-in ballots were counted?
I wonder if they didn't have it all organized to throw.
I wonder if you could. How is it possible that there would be fraud of this scale? You never saw it coming, and you had no response. Yeah.
People out
and you should run things? Republicans should run things. I see. No wonder, the cupboards were bare, and you left them bare for 3.5 years. Because it doesn't matter to you. It doesn't matter to Republicans. Especially Georgia Republicans, apparently.
Catch up with phony ballots. Oh, no, Democrats wouldn't do that. The media says Democrats are very honest and never engage in election fraud.
Well, no, a bunch of them did when they were, before they changed over to the Republican Party, when the Dixiecrats moved.
And this must be a hallucination of some kind that they did this.
No, you're not hallucinating. You're just a dipshit. I don't think you're seeing squirrels doing math. I think you just don't fundamentally understand reality. I guess that's the difference. Is it really hallucinating if you just don't understand reality? If you don't grasp it?
They're going to say that, well, I guess I better say right away, I didn't get this from any Russians.
No, the IRA is runs mostly out of Macedonia.
And there are no Russians in here. So the Times can't.
Was that why you lost this time? Because last time there were Russians that voted, and that gave you the edge, but you lost Georgia because no Russians voted this time? Oh, I see. Well, thanks for clarifying that. That's helpful.
And say it came from Russia, which would be their next argument. We'll be right back.
Oh my God, that's painful.
If you want a good cigar,
is there such a thing? If you want good throat cancer, that's the important thing.
Go to a good cigar shop.
Yeah, why not?
You want the best,
go somewhere else. Don't smoke anywhere near Rudy. If you want a genuine carcinoma, yeah. /Rudy. I do not advocate slashing Rudy. No violence at all, guys. You know how I feel about that.
Rudy. That's famous.
Even if he asks for it.
smoke.com/Rudy. Welcome back.
I feel welcome. Why did you do such a harsh cut?
/Rudy. Welcome back.
What did he fuck up between welcome back and this?
Also.
Welcome back.
There were witnesses, numerous eyewitnesses. I mean, we're backed up with about 50. We presented about 12, and their testimony was all devastating. They were eyewitnesses to fraud. Dana Van Buren Smith.
Dana Van Buren Smith of the Smith Van Burens?
Who was a poll worker in Hart County. She stated that she was instructed to bring the ballot bags to the election office.
Hold on one second. Be right back. Well, at least I have a be right back screen now, which is good. I think it's a big step up, where you guys can talk amongst yourselves. It's, we're growing piece by piece. Thanks to everybody who's been supporting the show this entire time. Bless you and thank you. Especially our patrons, patreon.com/HalSparks, and of course, everybody else in that area. I was going to get a cigar prop. I had this big plastic cigar thing that was ridiculous that I found in some of my stuff that I was doing, and I was going to bring it out for show and tell, and I thought it was over there, but I don't want to dig for it, and there we go. By the way, my original Nerd Halen glasses, this is the first pair. We've had multiple pairs since the beginning, and it's fun. And I also have a special treat at the end of the show today to show you for show and tell from finding stuff in moving. Hold on, we'll go back to commentary. There we go.
Unsealed. Why unsealed? Because it's a lot easier to cheat with them when it's unsealed. She noticed them counting from the back room where they were in cardboard boxes rather than the ballot bag that she sealed on Election Day, which means they either took the sealed box on Election Day,
or she was watching them getting the tabulation sheets and tabulating just like the other room, because you guys can't tell the difference between those two activities,
and decided to put it into a crappy box.
A crappy box. That is really the sign of fraud, isn't it?
Cardboard box. Well, these were just extra votes that had been brought in from somewhere in cardboard boxes that just got added to the tally, and explain some of that difference between the ones that are unaccounted for. I also observed that the special paper ballots were stacked neatly in the boxes, whereas on election night, they were all thrown together in the ballot bags.
You mean they got the bags from the drop-off boxes, which were locked at 8:30 on election night, where people, random human beings, came by with their envelope and shoved them in like that, in a kind of disorganized fashion, kind of like how mail looks when they take the box out, and somebody, probably a Democrat, took these random piles and bags and organized them by the box they came from and the district they were in. Somebody maybe you think did their job, because what do you think these are? Letters to Santa? Honestly.
She called the situation a security nightmare. The county center, a security nightmare. Another one of our...
So who gives a shit what she called it? She basically described the bags of ballots that came in from the drop-off boxes and from mail boxes that had to be organized based on the district they belong in, or the table they were going to be counted at, were put it in road boxes so they could be counted in an organized way.
Our poll watchers who stayed there all day. Just a very nice person, very spirited public citizen, a gentleman named Mark Amick. Mark Amick stayed there for 2 days as an observer and never got to observe a single ballot.
Well, then how does he call himself an observer? Honestly. That's just rude.
Ever. He was put so far away
That, I mean, he really can't even, what did he observe?
at that Fulton County thing we saw that he couldn't see anything, even with binoculars.
Why was he put that far away? Oh, I know. Let me guess. Because there were already people there, and, all right.
I could not read the ballot selections made by the voter on the original ballot or the ballot selections made by poll worker on the second ballot. They were filling out new ballots.
No, they weren't. They were duplicating ones that wouldn't go through the machine. This is an observable process. Stop jumping in your seat. You'll shit your pants.
Ballot selections made by poll worker on the second ballot. They were filling out new ballots. They were taking a ballot, and they were filling it out.
Yeah. And then they run that one through, and then they sign it themselves to show who duplicated the ballot, and then they would attach it to the old ballot and file it in the bin. Just as they were told to do. That's why a bunch of these assholes are like, I saw a bunch of ballots with the same signature on it. You didn't see a bunch of it. You saw the duplicates made that were stapled to the ones they were duplicating and signed. None of the privacy envelope, the ballots inside the privacy envelopes are signed. You don't sign those. That would defeat the purpose of having a privacy envelope in the first goddamn place. There are no signatures on the ballots. There are none, especially in the mailing part of it. Like, huh? How stupid is this guy?
First of all, that's illegal.
It would if it was actually happening, but it isn't.
Number two, did they put the right name down? Well, Mark Amick said this was done over and over again.
Yeah, and they all had the same signature on them because the person duplicating the ballot had to sign it to prove they were the one that duplicated it. So if they go, hey, these didn't match, somebody was giving votes to Trump or Biden that shouldn't have. Who did that? Oh, she did or he did because they filled the goddamn thing out. So you have to sign your name to it, to the duplicate, to prove you were the one that did the duplicating. Seriously. He's so excited about the dumbest shit.
He complained about it, but he couldn't read or verify the ballot selections.
Well, then, obviously, he's a true observer. He couldn't read or verify anything, but he complained about it. So he was complaining about shit he didn't observe. I see.
Eventually, by complaining so much, he was thrown out. He supplied some pictures.
Yeah, not Clayton. They don't do that in Georgia.
Of just how far.
And you don't sign inside your ballot. You might sign your privacy envelope, I guess, because you closed it, but nobody signs the ballot itself, is the theory, at least in Georgia and what he's talking about.
The way he was. He supplied some pictures.
And what he's talking about is in the duplicate ballot, this is beyond the signature verification at all. This is somebody just getting a ballot. They have no idea who cast it because you shouldn't. Their job is simply to replicate the actual ballot because this one won't scan for whatever reason, put it through, and then attach it, sign it themselves to say, I'm the one who did the duplication. I'm filing this away. If there's ever any problem where they go, hey, these didn't line up, come see me.
Pictures of just how far away he was.
Yes, he was right next to... Yes, so these are the people who are doing the counting. This is a camera pointed at them. These are all the other cameras that they know are there. See that? See that? There are extra cameras here, here, here. There's one over here. Beyond the, and by the way, all of his, we've got 4 angles of this shit. There's other angles of the entirety of it, but they're only showing you the security cam footage, because if they show you the camera footage on the other places in here, it kind of takes the excitement out of it. You can actually see what's going on clearly.
And how, in fact, there was even a poll put up to make it more difficult for him to see anything. In fact,
yeah. They put this poll in just to block his view. The architect who built this place put this bullshit in about the ceiling caving in or some nonsense. I don't know, architecture bullshit. Probably a Democrat. But he put in this bullshit poll just so he couldn't see, years before they decided they needed this. Christ almighty. They put this poll in so he couldn't see. Look at this poor sap. I mean, he isn't one of the observers. I don't think, but I can't even see with this poll here.
There was even a poll put up to make it more difficult for him to see anything.
All right. All right. Okay. Okay. I don't know. I'm honest to God. Yeah, it's radical left architects. I know, can't stop lying. I'm almost impressed. Yeah, it's a suppression poll. There are lots of bad polls out there. These are totally fake polls.
There was even a poll put up to make it more difficult for him to see anything.
I don't even, that's amazing. I'm fucking stunned. Really, this is amazing to me. Like, I get the whole, those look like suitcases full of ballots, and we could argue that back and forth, and it's fake, and it's goofy, but this is stunning. This is so dumb. I'm having a hard time even processing how because look at him. He thinks this is...
There was even a poll put up to make it more difficult for him to see anything. But I mean, this is outrageous.
Yes, it is outrageous. It is outrageous that you think the architect was planning this. When was the TCF Center built? Or whatever this place is? Well, there you go, maggots and Trumpsters. You're getting your money's worth. There is the keen, capable, legal mind of one Rudolph Giuliani that really...
And how, in fact, there was even a poll put up to make it more difficult for him to see anything.
Unbelievable.
But I mean, this is outrageous.
Outrageous! Please, this is no better time than now to remind you guys to send your money to Donald J. Trump. Go to Trump.com or Trump2020.com or Trump2024.com or TrumpPence something or other.com and just pour money in. Because remember, none of it goes to pay Rudy's legal/medical bills until you've hit the $8,000 mark. $8,000 in one, then Rudy gets 40 cents of that dollar. So you really, and this is what you're getting what you pay for, folks. This is...
To make it more difficult. And how, in fact, there was even a poll put up to make it more difficult for him to see anything.
I mean, that is money well spent. Seriously? How am I... Look, Rudy, I'm trying to make comedy out of this stuff. I'm trying to keep everybody cheered up during COVID and all this stuff. We got to deal with this. We got to watch you do this. You're the president's lawyer, and I have to go through this because we have to, as inserious as you are as a human being, we have to take this seriously to some degree, and I have to go through and listen to your argument so I can refute it on the facts and on the, on the basic tenets of it. I'm not just cutting pieces together and trying to create a false narrative like you do or like Crowder does, or any of these other assholes. I go through the whole goddamn... You got to make it a little challenging, though. This takes the fun out of my job when you're this funny.
In fact, there was even a poll put up to make it more difficult for him to see anything.
God damn.
But I mean, this is outrageous. They're supposed to...
All right. Have you seen anybody on the news play a clip of that? I mean, this is, other than watching Rudy Giuliani's videos alone by yourself, which I don't recommend, Has anyone else in the media guided you through this but me? I don't think so. And yet, there are tons of maggots and Trumpsters trolling out there and really squealing into the wind that this guy is their savior and he will protect Trump because they've really got a case. The man, so just in context, reminding you that the man who's telling you that the architect of this center strategically put a pole there to block the view of observers, not that they strategically put the tables behind the pole. No. Oh, no. But that the pole was put there to block their view. It's an important distinction here. Rudy's not making the case that they hid something behind an obstruction. He's saying the obstruction was created like that. And you must take that in context with every other fact he is alleging to present. Just saying. You can't separate those two.
To be observers and...
Do I think maggots watch us? I know they do, all the way through. They hate watch the hell out of this show. I know it's partly why my numbers are as good as they are. They didn't start out this way. They found me. Hi.
They're not observing.
They're not observing that that poll was there for, what, a decade at least? Yeah, that's not the one. Read this one.
And then we have an affidavit from...
The architect. What's the guy's name?
Bridget Thorne.
Bridget Thorne, who I'm going to guess in the affidavit, they use he, him pronouns for her because whoever was doing your affidavits in your notary public didn't bother to change them. They assumed that all the witnesses coming forward would be men. It's adorable, but please.
Who says, over the entire course of my experience, these test ballots were handled by Dominion employees in a haphazard and careless way.
These what?
These test ballots were handled. Thorne.
These what?
Who says, over the entire course of my experience, these test ballots were handled by...
These test ballots.
Who says, over the entire course of my experience, these test ballots were handled by Dominion employees in a haphazard and careless way.
The test ballots?
At times, they were stacks of test ballots unsecured over the facility.
Test ballots.
Which meant that there were numerous ballots that were available to put in to make up for the difference that brought Biden back with phony...
Oh, the test ballots.
Votes.
Oh, really? Yeah? And let me guess. They were only checking to see how well their machines cast ballots for Biden? They didn't have 50-50 test ballots? Did you see any of them leave? Were they all put in 4 crates and put under the mysterious coffin table, for example?
And then another witness under oath, Susan Voiles, said that she looked at a large number of ballots.
A large number of ballots.
And she's been doing this for 20 years.
She's been looking at ballots for 20 years?
I observed that the markings for the candidates on these ballots were unusually uniform, perhaps even with a ballot marking device. By my estimate, in observing these ballots, approximately 98% constituted votes for Joe Biden.
Right, from a particular district or county? From an area which is, I'm going to go with, nearly 100% black, for example?
I only observed 2 of these ballots as votes for Donald J. Trump.
Is your observation the entirety of the observation of those things, or were you fixating on the volume of Biden votes that there were? Do you have a count that you made on a piece of paper? Were you literally going, every time I made a hash on this piece of paper, every time I saw a Biden one, I made a hash every time I saw a Trump vote? And this is my count versus what they said they presented on that time, Your Honor. And this is what I'm presenting as no, you're just saying, I saw a bunch of Biden votes and they were like 2% for fucking Trump or something. And that sounds wrong to me because a lot of people love Trump. Everybody, I was sitting there, right? Biden, Trump. Biden.
Well, there are others, many others. I can show you this chart, which shows you that in the middle of the
Show us the chart.
night,
they uploaded the ballots that were counted, the tabulations of the ballots that were counted for the last 4 hours in one chunk, because that's how the counting works. They finish the count, they certify it amongst themselves. They sign off on that's the actual count, and then they upload it in the tabulation machines, like every county in the country does.
Out of nowhere,
Out of somewhere.
Biden gets a 107-point jump. 107-point jump.
Yeah, as one county that, according to your own viewer, that went 98% for Biden, put all their votes in.
So we get a pretty good idea of who those ballots were for under the table. Well, this is a pretty darn.
Whoa. Who are they for under the table?
Those ballots were for under the table. Well, this is a pretty darn.
Did he just...
Those ballots were for under the table. Well, this is a pretty darn terrible situation, isn't it? Maybe one of the worst in
Did he just doze off in the middle of his own argument?
vote counting in our history, because this is not isolated to Georgia. This is true in Pennsylvania. It's true in Michigan. It's true in Wisconsin. It's true in Nevada. It's true in
Arizona. He's going to say Arizona.
in Arizona. And it's true in Georgia. And we have so many reluctant Republicans so afraid to do their duty. Oh, my God. The Democrats steal with impunity, and we are afraid to do our duty.
Rudy, simmer down. First of all, you need to save your energy. You've got a disease that's killing a lot of people in your age range, and you might want to conserve what little energy you have left. And secondly, again, you keep making the case that Republicans are too weak to hold office in the greatest country in the world.
Where's our gumption? Where's our backbone?
Yeah, no gumption at all. Bubba gumption.
Where's our dedication to our Constitution?
They have that. That's your problem. That's what you're running into. They have dedication to the Constitution of both the country and their state, and therein lies the rub. That's where they've been telling you to go away. They don't have dedication to Trump. That's your problem.
Well, the Supreme Court, assuming that we did have heroic patriots, came up with a solution.
Oh yeah? What was the Supreme Court's solution?
Solution is in Article 2, Section 1, Clause 2.
Okay, let's hear it. Let me guess that the state senators who've been given the right to choose electors may choose the manner in which they choose those electors. They have the right to do that. So if they want to have a bunch of people staple, I don't know, if they want to have a bunch of people pour dog food down their pants and sick pigs on them, and whoever can stand it the longest becomes an elector, legally they have the right to do it, so much as that's not seen as cruelty to animals, or the people involved don't enjoy it too much, according to Cenk Uygur.
Of the United States Constitution.
Uh-huh.
And it says...
Read it out loud and fuck your argument right in front of us all.
That the state legislature shall be the sole regulator of elections for president and the selection of electors.
So they can write laws about how it's carried out. They can outsource anything they want. They can create secondary bodies all they want.
The case, McPherson versus Blacker, says that it is a plenary power. And it goes on to say, whatever provisions may be made by statute or by the state constitution.
Right. So the premise being here that the state Senate has the right to create statutes or laws within their own state that they can write themselves and get signed by the governor that give the powers of choice of electorate to another body or a nonpartisan body, or use darts to choose it. They have every right to do that. And if they want to, they can seize it back. But they've written that law, and there probably has to be, an effort therein legally to assume that, and it has to be uniform.
To choose electors by the people, there is no doubt of the right of the legislature to resume the power at any time.
Right. They can resume that power at any time. They have to, have a legislative session, go through committee, pass a law, verify that law, ratify it within the states or the Commonwealth, depending on the internal laws of their state, have it signed by the governor. They can't just individually seize it back as individual state senators. It has to be an act of the legislature in toto. But okay.
The state, of course, after granting the franchise in the special context of Article 2, can take back the power to appoint electors.
Yeah, they can. Doesn't mean they will or have to. If they can take it back, they can hand it out. And
that is particularly true when there are indications of fraud in the election. There are not indications of fraud in this election.
I agree.
There's overwhelming evidence of fraud, including now a smoking gun bank robbery videotape.
You just admitted you haven't watched the whole thing and you don't know what's in it. You're drawing conclusions. Someone walks into a bank. They're not armed, but they walk up to the counter and to you, they look a little sketchy. And they walk up to one of the tellers and you cut out, about 20 minutes where the manager comes over, they talk to the manager, they go over, they sign some stuff, they come back out over, and then they walk out of the bank carrying a bag full of money. And you cut to the point where they walk out with the bag full of money and go, obviously we are seeing a robbery here. Because we've cut out the whole part where this person walked in, spoke to a teller, said, I'd like to close out the entirety of my account and I would like it in cash. And they go over and sit with the manager and the manager tries to talk them out of it. Then they fill out all the necessary paperwork. Then they sign off on it. They close their account officially. Then they go back to the teller's window where they collate and gather all the money, which takes a little time because they don't have that much cash on hand. And then they walk out with a bag with 30 grand in it because that's the entirety of their life savings. And they take it somewhere and it's nobody's goddamn business. But you cut out the middle of it, it looks like a robbery. No gun, no running, whatever. And there's cameras on the whole time. But if you don't bother to look at the middle, who gives a shit?
What do we need, state legislators?
To watch the whole tape and talk to the actual individual people like the Secretary of State and the governor did.
What do we need?
A breath mint. A more consistent hair dye that you get by going to a salon. I mean, lots of ladies your age do it. There's nothing wrong with it.
This is not our obligation to the Republican Party.
No, it isn't. You have no obligation to the Republican Party to steal an election.
Although that wouldn't be bad either, since our party is being raped by them.
Wow.
Republican Party? Although that wouldn't be bad either, since our party is being raped by them.
Whoa. That's some language right there. Do you really want to bring up sexual assault when you had your hand in your pants and you touched the ass of a person you thought was 15? Now, I recognize that if you see Chris Hansen and he walks out and goes, hey, mind if you have a seat right there? You know two things. One, you're busted. And two, the person you were speaking to on the phone was more than likely a cop and was over the age of 18. So you weren't actually talking to a real 15-year-old. You know this after the fact. If you have any brains at all. And in this case, when the film came out, you know now that she wasn't 15. You thought she was 15 when she was interviewing you. That's one of the reasons why you gave her the interview.
This is our obligation to our country.
What country is that? The Confederate States of the the Confederate States of the Americas? I forget what they affectionately called it. Or are we just going with Russia at this point?
The only way you stop this is by stopping it cold, now.
Why would they stop it cold now? If your evidence sucks.
We don't fix it for next time. Next time it gets worse. They come away from this saying, boy, we can really roll these Boy Scouts. I'll tell you, we can roll them. We cheated so bad, so obviously, and these guys just don't have the gumption to stand up to us. They're afraid of what the Washington Post is going to say or the New York Times is going to say.
Yeah, and if you're scared of the Washington Post in the name of it's like the president. If you're afraid of the Washington Post or the New York Times, why should you be in power, you wuss?
NBC or ABC or the whole thing. What they should be afraid is, what's your conscience going to...
Did he drop another lug nut? What happened? Listen to this.
The whole thing. What they should be afraid is, what's your conscience going to say?
What is your conscience going to say, Rudy? That you should have wore a mask so you didn't, and shouldn't have asked a woman near you who was wearing a mask to take her mask off when you clearly had a disease that could kill members of her family?
If you believe in God like me, what's God going to say?
God's going to say you are bearing false witness, Rudy, and that's one of the 10 Commandments. I really take that one seriously. By the way, that's a weird makeup patch right there. Between the oranginess of his head above and the oranginess of his head below. I think that's the real color of his skin. And he's done that thing with his snot rag. He does that wipe across there, so I think that's what happened. Yeah.
If you believe in God like me, what's God going to say? The Professor Eastman, ended it with 3 questions that I asked him.
Okay, great. What are the 3 questions you asked Dr. Eastman? Who, by the way, no relation to Eastman Kodak, who, got an $800 million deal from the government to make drugs, even though that's not what they do.
Number 1, does the legislature have the power to take evidence and make findings of fraud? The answer, yes.
Yeah, and they didn't see it.
Number 2, can the legislature call itself into session, since this is a power that derives from the United States Constitution, not the state constitution? Answer, of course.
No.
And number 3.
But you're presuming that they would call themselves into session to reclaim a right that they had willfully given away for nonpartisan reasons.
Can one of the remedies be awarding the electors to the aggrieved candidate?
No, actually.
The answer to that is
No.
of course.
No. Because just because you're aggrieved doesn't mean you've actually made your case, and you cannot conspire to create a group of faithless electors.
The evidence is there. Well, now, if this
Thanks,
doesn't
Kenneth.
move our Republican governors and legislators to step up in the name of their country to save this election.
For Donald Trump? I would like to present the premise that they are standing up for the Constitution and their own state by certifying a legit election for the guy who won and not the guy who lost, in that case, your candidate, and that it does take a tremendous amount of bravery because they are apparently getting death threats.
What do we have in our party?
Clearly, your party is far too weak to organize itself or function, much less have anybody in it that is capable of holding a position of power that has any importance to it. Obviously, you are weak and easily led and fearful, cowering wussies with obviously no knowledge of your constitutional rights, so I don't know why we would put you in charge of protecting the Constitution from all enemies, foreign and domestic, if indeed you yourself say that Republicans aren't there to defend it. I think you've made a great case today, Rudy. I really, really do. That the Republican Party is a group of feckless wimps, incapable of even running an election, much less protecting the country against a bioweapon sent by China or attacks on our election integrity by Iran, North Korea, and Russia. I mean, what more do you need? Rudy, you've done a great job. I'm sure the president only wishes you'd made this great a case for him. But thank you for basically belly gutting the entire Republican Party for everyone to see.
I don't care if you were once for McCain or you were once for this one or once for that one. I was once for McCain.
Were you? You don't want to say that because Trump, that's probably what got you pulled off the case and said, Rudy, you got to pretend you have COVID. I can't have you out there. You said you were once for McCain.
McCain was a friend of mine.
No, he wasn't. You pretended to be his friend because you thought it made you look macho, just like Lindsey Graham. You don't give a shit about the man. Or you wouldn't have allowed Trump to shit on him like that.
I campaigned for him. I ran against him, and he remained my friend.
Yeah, until Trump said he wasn't a hero, and then you didn't give a shit.
But let's break all this viciousness now. This is above us. It's too big. This is too big. It's not about Trump. It's not about Biden. It's not about John McCain. It's not about some petty grievance or...
Yeah, that's the problem, guys. Republicans, you guys got to get past your petty grievances. You got to put those aside. And you got to be, you got to put aside whether it used to be for someone like McCain or Mitt Romney or Ronald Reagan or Nixon. You got to put all that aside. And you got to buttress your nose right up against Trump's ass and just take a big whiff of his farts and understand that's the medicine. That's the thing that's going to heal you. This is the thing that's going to bind you all together. You're not really a Republican Party until you're a human centipede with Trump in front, Rudy in back, and Marco Rubio and Ted Cruz in the middle.
We let this happen. We have in 1 year allowed them to erode our right of freedom of religion.
I'm sorry, you're not allowed to worship whatever God you want?
Really, really limit our right of free speech.
How so? Because you can't tweet falsehoods put forward by Russian disinfo campaigns without someone going, guys, this is kind of bullshit. Like, you have Parler. You can go wherever you want. What free speech issue? The government isn't stopping you. These are private entities.
With the lockdown and the way in which they've imposed an almost iron curtain of silence.
An iron curtain of silence, which apparently is so porous that Rudy himself can have a YouTube channel that he can put this stuff out on long form. There's 3 other networks online that carry all of his stuff. And of course, I have to deal with it by overlapping it like I do. And so he's got multiple ways of going. And he, of course, can tweet all these videos and promote them. And he's got a Facebook page. And
now we've let...
But it's an iron curtain, right? I'm sorry, iron curtain.
them substantially...
An iron curtain of circle lights.
...destroy our right to vote. It's time for patriots to stand up. You can take the pressure.
Tell him. Rudy, you be the coach. Rudy.
You might get doxxed.
You might get doxxed? You mean like Democratic governors? There might be a plot to kidnap you? Nah.
I don't know what'll happen to you. How do you want to live your life? You want to live it as a patriotic American?
Or do you want to catch COVID and spread it to family and friends because you think it's a big farce?
Or do you want to live it as a sniveling little coward? When people get called on...
Apparently, Rudy is just calling most of the Republican Party sniveling little cowards, by the way.
Some men and women get called on to give their lives for our country.
That's right. Not Donald Trump. I mean, he had bone spurs. I mean, if you had bone spurs, you're not going to be called on to give your lives for your community. Yeah, no.
And they say yes, and they realize it's unfair that they were the only ones selected. Well, this time
You mean the draft? What?
Finger of responsibility points to you, the state legislators.
I want you to steal this election for Donald Trump.
You can save our country. You can do something so historic.
Oh, this is it.
So
I'm talking to you.
Brave.
State senators who will never watch this shit.
We can write a new Profiles in Courage.
That's right. And I'm going to give you your own chapter in Profiles in Courage, even though that would be... There's some sort of copyright infringement. I don't know that I have the rights to actually call it Profiles in Courage. I'll probably have to call it Profiles in Republican Courage, which, Republican in quotes, because most Republicans are wusses, as we've already described. But I'm going to give you your own chapter.
Maybe we need that.
You do.
Maybe that turns us around like that.
Maybe.
I implore each one of the state legislatures to take up a new special session.
Mm-hmm. Take up a new special session, which obviously includes Democrats who will vote against it. And you'll need a unanimous vote, or at least 60%, which you don't have. But okay.
Listen to the evidence.
Evidence.
Look at a smoking gun.
Look at a smoking gun. Yipe. I don't recommend that. Never, if a gun is smoking, it's just recently been fired, please don't point it anywhere near your face or your head. This is bad advice. Rudy can't shoot, so it's not surprising that he doesn't know which end of a gun works. So,
And make your determination in conjunction with the overwhelming evidence that Biden deliberately stole this election.
So obviously, the candidate who spent the least amount of money in the primary trounced people who were outraising him in multiple states ahead of time, who were way ahead in the last one, spent barely any money in the, to ultimately take it, and who Trump for the longest time was arguing had dementia, clearly can't put two words together, but managed while Trump was president, who is allegedly the greatest president this country has ever seen, always puts America first, is tougher than anybody, knows how to deal with our allies that are really our adversaries and our adversaries who are really our allies. He's got a keen mind. He can see people's hearts. He fell in love with Kim Jong-un. I mean, what more could you ask for? This guy was taken down by someone who he himself argues has dementia, not only in debate after debate, where he lost to a guy with a stutter, but Biden was able to coordinate the greatest election steal in American history and beat him by 7 million votes out in the open, 306 in the Electoral College, while he was president. I'm finding a mild flaw in Rudy's argument here, in that what kind of a shitty president do you have to be to have the election stolen from you in that circumstance? How is it, that sleepy Joe Biden coordinated the greatest election theft in U.S. history? Stunning. Incredible. Because it's not that, Biden has to be some sort of master thief in this circumstance. The other side of this is that maybe the con isn't that great. Maybe the mark is such a sap, is so incapable of protecting even his own interests, that it's no wonder that more people have died under his watch than died in the Korean Vietnam Wars put together. Maybe it's no wonder that we're having a 9/11 every fucking day because of this asshole. Because apparently, even though he's been in office for 4 years, put sycophants in charge of everything, stuffed the courts with conservative activist judges by his own prideful declarations from the Oval Office and the Rose Garden and every rally he's gone to. He's had 4 years to do that, and he's still got curb stomped by sleepy Joe Biden. That's your case. That's your argument, that Joe Biden is such a master criminal with dementia, who can't put two words together, that he marched a mud hole in Trump and stomped it dry. Why would anybody want Trump as president during any kind of an emergency if allegedly, according to you, Joe Biden can kick his ass? Because that's the argument he's making. I mean, that is the base. I mean, granted, you and I both know that actually Biden's a very functional politician and a good leader, and is already in the process of keeping every promise he made in the primary, and is a good soul who has a lot of empathy, and that's one of the reasons why in the middle of COVID and during an economic downturn that started in February, by the way, that during that time, we've gotten to know the guy, and instead of going from like, well, any Democrat must be better than this asshole, to I actually like Joe Biden, to actually like, I feel moved by what Joe Biden is saying. He's a decent human being and has a grasp of the issues and can probably motivate Republicans to come to the table in a way that no other Democratic candidate since before Clinton could do. Never mind that fact. That's not the case that Rudy Giuliani is making. Rudy Giuliani is making a case that the guy they ridiculed as having dementia and it being incapable of manufacturing a complete sentence stomped all over Trump, and the Republican Party is too weak, divided, feckless, and pathetic, in his own words, to pick up the slack and win. And also, COVID's a hoax, which Rudy caught and now is sick with.
And actually lost it to
Yeah, you did.
Donald Trump by a fairly wide margin. Thank you.
That's Rudy's common sense. That's the whole thing. I'm going to guess this might be the last or the second to last one of these that we're going to get, because they pulled Rudy off the trail because of allegedly him having COVID. And I'm going to wrap up because this has been a long one as well. But understand that over the course of this, and Trump has pulled a bunch of these things. I want to show you this real quick. And by the way, Mark Levin is one of my favorite characters now to do, because he is easily the easiest person to mock in the current, but I guess besides Judge Dean, of the dudes. If I'm going to play guys, I'm going to create a character based on a real man, a human being that is male. Levin is the funniest one to do. I mean, it's ridiculous. But look at how these segments, he's got one whole 9-minute and 46-second thing to go. I might do that tomorrow. We don't need this shit today. But watch for Trump to, even in his little gathering today, where he had his speech and he said some shit and he said he won and he said he could kick his ass and all this nonsense. How much of Trump's thing did he pull? A minute, if I get close to it, you can't see it. A minute, 22 seconds. That's all Trump's people and he could get out of that whole exchange today. Just doofy. But, and then even out of his own speech, look at all these clips. Now, granted, the longest clips include the videos he played. And I would like you to notice something, that they play the clip from like the camera being on it, which is weird. Just play the whole friggin' thing. You have it. It's your video. So anyways, I'm going to sign off, you guys. Thank you guys for joining me today. I appreciate it. I'm glad we had a chance to hang out. I want to thank BB Tanya for the bits, everybody who's been cheering. Thank you, Benny Loco. Don't forget to give a thumbs up, like, and subscribe, as Benny Loco lovingly always reminds us to do. Thank you guys for joining on the Flapper Show last night. That was a lot of fun. It's kind of amazing that, like, how much material I'm able to write in those shows in this format right now. It's pretty great. I may never give up the digital shows just because they're a good opportunity to write some jokes straight from home. So on top of live shows in future, I'll probably augment with the digital Zoom shows and whatnot, when I think a lot of other people will just straight up abandon them because they're such great writing exercises and they're super fun. I want to thank MRed for subscribing, Bethany for the super chat. Thank you guys so much. Thanks, Norman, for the bits. Thank you, Sherry, for the bits. Thank you, Jillian, who says gave a refresher on counting versus tabulating. Oh, that's fantastic. Thank you very much. Thank you, Jason, for the super chat, and all the people who followed today. Thank you, Jason Grissom, for the super chat. I appreciate that. Hal is the man, he says. It means a lot, you guys. I greatly appreciate it. I'll be back tomorrow, regular time, 3 o'clock. It's going to be a party. I have a piece, almost like a set piece, but a piece of furniture being delivered tomorrow. I'm hoping it arrives before I start the show. But if the way things have been working out, every time I do these things, I'm like, bing bong, and it entails lifting something heavy. I'm the one in the house that does it. So if I have to, like, punt the show a half an hour because I'm carrying boxes in, that's why. But hopefully that will also finalize the setup so that I can start doing the show not just from my room but from the living room as well, where I do all the sexy liberal sketches, and we're going to work that out. I will definitely give you guys a heads up if that does indeed happen. But either way, and also I'm thinking about doing a full like visual reset of the show, so that either I have one or two different set options as far as my background and the other stuff, and then eventually creating a green screen where I don't lose my arms, where I can do the whole, that would be lovely in here, if that was at all possible. Like if I could move back like here, and I could actually maybe possibly enjoy a good portion of this thing. So I have more room to gesture at people. Because my dream is that when I point at someone in the videos that I'm following, that I could actually point at what I'm pointing at instead of my finger disappearing. That's the next step. That's what we're shooting for. So I want to thank the patrons for making that happen. Honest to God. And yeah. And do I have a mustache? No, I just haven't shaven, so I'm a little scruffy. But anyways, you guys are wonderful. Thank you guys so much. Take care of yourselves and take care of somebody else. And I will see you guys tomorrow at our regular time. It's yeah, this is a good time. And by the way, Johnny Million will be back with us this weekend. They're officially moved in and kind of getting settled and all that kind of stuff. He'll be with us on Saturday. We missed him on this Saturday as well. And I think I'm going to be on Stuttering John's thing on Thursday, but I don't know. We'll see what that is. And that would be earlier in the day. As you know, Thursday shows are at 4 o'clock. All right, that's it. You guys are wonderful. Thanks for sticking around this long. I appreciate it. Thank you for the cheers and bits and hearts and support. And again, thank you to all the trolls for padding our numbers and pushing us up in the algorithm. You are really one of the biggest reasons why we have the reach that we do. And I can't thank you enough, because the rest of us are here willingly and we enjoy this time. But you, of course, lose time you will never get back. And remember, I've always said, it's better to lose money than time, because you can always get more money. Your time is gone forever, and there's no refunds. Take care. Okay, bye. And the song will start in a couple of seconds, because there's a weird delay, and I don't know why. And theme song. Where is it? There it is. All right. Rockin'. Take care, guys.